Hello, everyone, and welcome to Know Your Locals, a podcast to help you better get to know the Vic Smash scene. I'm Master of Disaster, your host, and today we have a special guest who's a Brawl veteran and long-time community member of ours, Dollar Juice. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you for having me.
No problem. I was really excited about this one when when I first asked, and I always ask, and I'm not sure what people are going to say, and I was really happy when you said you'd be happy to be on, so it's like awesome.
Yeah, well, I wasn't expecting it because I think I messaged you and was like, "Oh, you should have Jay and Ben on. That'd be hilarious." And you're like, "Oh, well, I've got you here. Do you want to come on it?" And I was like, I don't think anyone wants to listen to what I have to say, but sure, I'll talk for an hour, no problem."
I mean, I think I disagree with that sentiment that no one wants to hear what your thoughts are because I've definitely heard many people like, "Oh, I'm really interested to hear what you know Aaron has to say." Really, so
Cool. Well, yeah, we'll see. We'll see if you guys regret that decision. But yeah.
all right. So first things first, just I'd like you to just introduce yourself to the listeners, so you can just share whatever you'd like to share about yourself with them.
My name is Erin. I go by Dollary Doos in tournaments because I love The Simpsons. And I thought that I'm Australian. I love The Simpsons. What's a better name than Dollary Doos? I'm a huge Nintendo fan. I've been playing since I think my first console was actually the NES. So I like to think of myself as probably the oldest member of like the old people's crew in Ultimate. Um, so yeah, I love Majora's Mask. That's probably my favorite game, and Conker's Bad Fur Day. I think the Nintendo 64 was my favorite console throughout the Nintendo history. But yeah, I also work in retail at like an art and craft supply. So if any of you guys do art and craft, you can hit me up for like a sweet discount.
I'll have to
And that's literally my life.
I'll have to take up that offer at some point. I've been like putting
Yeah.
off getting
Do
into
you,
like painting and stuff for a very long time.
ah, I can
Um,
help you. I can help you get like cheap stuff but good stuff. You
because
know how you go to like a $2 shop and it's just like all junk and you buy like pencils and the pencils don't even work? I'll get you like just as cheap stuff, but it actually works.
that sounds like a plan because I think there's like creative outlets I haven't yet explored, and it's like I can't justify like going all out until I know if I even enjoy it or not. Um, so
Mm.
that's one of those things. Yeah, if
It
I
would
can
have
get the stuff cheap, then I can try it first.
been I'm surprised like you didn't pick it up in ISO. That honestly, like my work was so insanely busy because everyone came in and they're like, oh well, we can't leave a house. We're just gonna do like the most random art. And we had so many people coming in doing like drawing or really like crazy resin art and stuff and never done it before. So yeah, people were going crazy.
Yeah, no, I guess for me,
So you
I got
would have been
back. Sorry, I got sort of back into the digital art sort of stuff first. So I bought like a tablet and stuff like that, um, just to sort of get back into stuff I used to do, like photo editing, things like that. That was my outlet, if you would. But
mm,
painting was always that thing. Even before IC, it was like I want to try this at some point and give it a shot. But yeah, I don't know. I probably just never left the house to actually give it a chance.
that's fair.
But
um,
yeah, no. So I guess we'll start off with that interesting fact. So you work at this art and craft store, but you also, you create your own clothing and you're a cosplayer as well. So I thought that'd be an interesting point to start off with. That's something that a lot of people probably wouldn't know about you, if they didn't know you from before. Um, was it something that you were sort of into, like especially like the arts and crafts sort of stuff? Was that something you grew up with and you were interested in, or was it something that you picked up like later on as you grew up?
No, like I was always super into it as a kid. I was talking to my mum just before, and she was telling me about how I was. I remember my childhood as I was like a really naughty kid, but she was like, "No, you were fine. Like you'd just be in your room, like pasting down like paper and stuff." And it wasn't until nighttime I was like turned into like a demon child because I didn't want to go to bed. I just wanted to stay up doing like art and craft. And my dad had put a big blackboard on my wall. So I used to stay up like really late drawing on the blackboard. And she's like, you got to go to bed. And then yeah, I'd just go crazy. I'm like, I want to do arts and crafts. So yeah, I was obviously like a psycho arts and crafts like kid growing up. And I was like, yeah, I just stayed in it. I was just like crazy into arts and crafts until probably about like early high school, and then I actually got into movie making because I think I loved making like props and everything like that.
Hmm. Okay.
And like I'd write the scripts and stuff, so I just got like super into movie making, and I kind of substituted more like art for movie making. So that was kind of a cool shift. And then I did that through high school, and then I kind of got back into art and craft when I left high school.
That's really interesting. Like I know for myself, like I was big into drawing as a kid. Like I'm talking like 5 years old and stuff, and I drew all the way up until like high school. Um, even into like sort of year 10, year 11, and then I guess I got sidetracked by the whole, you got to do good at school. It's like your last years or whatever, and then like I sort of lost the passion in a sense, like because I tried to get back into it and then I like sucked. Um, you know what I mean? Like, cause you draw every day and you
Yeah.
get better at it, right? And then you just like stop drawing for like 5 years and you try and do it again. It's like, man, I'm so bad, and then it's like really discouraging. So it's like it's good to hear people like do stick with like things that they enjoy,
Yeah.
and don't let them
I
slip
think
away.
yeah, like always, I was always into Uncraft, but it was always, I'd get really obsessed with a really specific thing. So I remember, like, for a few years during high school, I was super obsessed with scrapbooking. And I just bought like a million stickers, and I have all this paper, and I still have it because one day I might get back into it. Like, so I have all this stuff from scrapbooking. I was really into like bead making, I think, when I was about in year 12. So I went to this bead shop and just like bought them out of pretty much everything. So now I have this like massive like beading collection. I don't do that anymore, but I might one day. And then I have like, I don't know, I have the most random stuff. I'm pretty sure I'm a hoarder, and I think anyone who does art and crafts kind of is a hoarder because it's just like so much stuff that you can do. So you just want to buy it all, and then you're like, you'd never want to get rid of it because you're like, I will do this again one day. I might need this like really specific piece of paper, like in an art and craft project I'm doing like 10 years down the line. So you just keep everything.
Yeah, that's the tricky part, right? It's like I can relate to that sort of hoarding type behavior, like with things like that. It's like, oh, I'll come back to it one day, and it's like I think I've thrown out like there was like certain things where it's just like, okay, I really need to throw this out. Like I know I'm not coming back to it at this point. If I've had it for 5 years, and I haven't used it again, like I probably won't do it again. But yeah, that's I don't know. I think that's a creative type issue,
Oh,
Um,
definitely, yeah. I think because I've thrown out a couple of things, and then yeah, literally like a year later, I'll be like, no, I really would like use that right now. So now I just never throw anything out.
oh goodness. So I guess
It's a
like to
sorry,
no, that's okay. So like that's how
sorry.
you started, but then cosplay's like quite out there in a sense. It's quite different to all this sort of stuff. So you're talking about the prop making stuff. Did you make bits and pieces for like things that you're producing and you're like making for videos and stuff like that? Like, did you make the costumes and things like that at that point, or was it something else like that you did more
No,
later on?
like I didn't even know how to sew. I remember doing a sewing class at high school, and I hated it so much that I paid some other woman, like one of my mum's friends, to make my like sewing projects.
Oh
And then I
god.
put them back, and they were so good that I would have to go in there and kind of unpick them and make them look a bit shabby so it looked like I did them. And I'm like, I always think back at that and I'm like, I can't believe I hated it so much, but then it's like my main thing that I do now. And so yeah, I used to for costumes and stuff. We have really good like op shops and thrift shops down where I lived with my parents. And so we'd just go to the op shop like whenever I needed to do a movie or whatever. I'd just go get a whole bunch of costumes. And a lot of the time, my friends' mums would know that we were doing a movie, so they'd just buy random costumes and like random clothes. And I had a huge, like out the back in the garage, I had a huge cupboard filled with just like random clothes and costumes and stuff. So yeah, I didn't make anything because I had no idea how to. I could only make the props. I didn't know how to sew. So it's
That's
kind of
nuts.
like really weird thinking back because I'm like, oh, imagine the cool movies I could have made if I actually like taught myself to sew sooner.
That's awesome though. So it's sort of like, you know, it was there, but it wasn't quite there, right? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There you go. So what was the point where it's sort of like that, like what got you really into cosplay in the first place? Because I understand that you're interested in like the general arts sort of stuff, but like, was there something in particular that happened, or something that you saw that sort of had that light bulb moment where you're like, I want to do this myself?
Yeah, I think it was when I was probably about like 21, 22 or so. And I had moved to Melbourne and I saw in the newspaper there was an article about Manifest, which was like a anime festival,
Mm.
like convention. And I had no idea that that was even a thing. So when I saw this, it was like Manifest and it had in there, we're interested in gaming and like anime and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, I'm interested in gaming. This is cool. And so I went on the website and then they had a little section which was like, dress up as your favorite character, like, and come and do cosplay. And I was like, cosplay? What are you talking about? That's literally just like dress ups. I'm like, I'm into that. Yeah, 100%. So I got my friend and I was like, oh, we should go to this and we should dress up. And so we had organized it and I didn't know how to sew still at that point. And I was like, well, I really want to dress up. So I'm going to try and find like a Nintendo costume. So I rang up this random like um, party store around the corner from where I lived. I was like, hey, do you have any Nintendo costumes? They're like, oh, yeah, we've got a Princess Peach costume. I was like, oh, yes, 100%. I want that. I'm coming down to get it just to like hire it. So I went down there, and when I got there, they showed me it, and it was literally like a sexy Princess Peach costume. It was like picture a maid costume. It was literally that, but in Princess Peach
Oh
colors.
god.
And I was like super disappointed because I thought I was like gonna get this massive like frock. And so when they showed me that, I was like, well, I've come all the way down here, like, and the convention's next weekend, so I'm just gonna get it. And I felt like super awkward in it, but I'm like, I'm doing it because I love Princess Peach, and like I'm gonna go to this convention. It's gonna be awesome. And then my friend pulled out like the day before,
Oh
and I
god.
didn't want to go alone, so I was like, nah, I'm just gonna not go. We'll go next year. We'll plan it out. Like I'll get a better costume. It'll be fine. And then they cancelled it. It was like it just like next year never like happened because that was the last year that they had it. So I was super like devastated and I just kind of forgot about it because I didn't realize there were other conventions that happened, like there was Supernova and Comic Con and all that.
Mm.
But I just had in my mind Manifest, it was the only one and that was kind of it. So I just like forgot about it and just kind of lived in the back of my mind. I'm like, yeah, that would have been cool. That would have been cool. And then it wasn't until PAX was it like 2013? I think when PAX came to Melbourne for the first time.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, well, this is a convention that's like dedicated to video games. I was like, this is gonna be great. So I got the same friend who dropped out the first time. We're actually living together, like by this point. So I was like, we are going to this, and you're not dropping out. I'm gonna make you go to it. And so yeah, I ended up thinking, well, I can't go back to the party shop and get that like weird Princess Peach maid costume. I'm like, I'm just gonna make my own. So I just watched heaps of tutorials on YouTube and I ended up making my own Princess Peach costume for it. And I made her like a Diddy Kong one, which was super easy, which was just like a red t-shirt and I painted stars on it. And I made her like a banana out of felt. So she just went as Diddy Kong and I went as Princess Peach. But it
That's
was like really kind of like a shabby costume that I made because I didn't know how to really like it was my first costume ever. And so the seams were just kind of like ripping and everything was a little shabby. But I'm like super proud of it. I still have it. I'd never wear it again, but I look at it and I'm like, oh, memories.
that's the thing, right? Like it's I don't know. I think that would have been the hardest part is like getting into it to start, you know? Like
Mm.
that's probably the hardest part to do. Like for me personally, like anything I can pick up. Like it's just that first time going. I mean, for me, for example, I never went to any Smash things. I didn't go to any tournaments or anything for any game I ever played. Um, so going the first time as like full grown adult, it was still really difficult. But once like I'm there and I've done it, that's when you actually start getting really involved into that sort of thing. So that's really interesting. So it just sort of like it was gonna happen, and then everything sort of fell apart. But then you found like this other opportunity for it to happen again, which was like really, really fortunate.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that was the first convention I ever went to, and then after that, I realized that there was other conventions like Supernova and Comic Con. So it just kind of snowballed. I'd made my first costume. I kind of got a high from it, and I'm like, well, I'm just gonna keep going.
And yeah, and I guess obviously not so much this year, but you know,
Yeah,
after
well,
that point,
yeah.
you've definitely been heavily involved in the cosplay sort of scene, so that's awesome. So that answers a couple of my questions, so I won't have to repeat them. With cosplay itself, like, what's the part that appeals to you the most? Like, for me, it's like in my head, I'm trying to think about it. Someone that doesn't do it, is it like the creation process itself, or is it like being able to show off the work that you've done? When you finally get to go and wear whatever cosplay you've made.
I think it's everything. Like I really enjoy actually creating it. So, because I've always been arty, I'm just like, yeah, I like problem solving. I like getting a whole bunch of material and like foam and whatever, and it's literally just scraps, and then to make something out of that, like it feels really good. You feel like you're so smart and like the best person ever because you're like, yes, I figured out how to make pants. This is great. So I think it's like actually making it and also wearing it, like wearing it to the convention's really cool as well. Just because you get people coming up and they're like a massive fan of the same fandom, and it's really cool to interact with those people and to talk about it. And yeah, it's kind of just like everything is good. A lot of the times, like I've stayed up really late making something, and so I'm pretty dead like the day of the convention, so it kind of feels like a bit of a blur, but I like it's worth it. It's so good. Like I'd stay up till like 4 a.m. making something. Um and then I'd
Nuts.
go to the convention at like 9 a.m. and I'd just be there all day, but it was like the best. They're like some of my best memories,
That's really
like going to
awesome.
them.
Like, because I know for myself, like I've been to PAX and stuff like that, and I've even been like overseas. I've attended some like esports sort of events, and they have the cosplay sort of stuff. And I guess for people that aren't too cluey about it, like there's a lot of work that goes into it in the background. Um,
Mm.
it's a lot of time and a lot of effort. And I think people like, I guess I wanted to see if you had an example that you could give to people. Some of the work you've done that's been really time consuming, just to give them some perspective of like the hours that get put into it.
Yeah, I think because like for a long time in my friend group, I was the only one who really knew how to like sew to that extent. And so I'd start going to conventions with this one other friend who I lived with, and I'd have to make all her costumes. And then another friend would be like, oh, well, I want to come too. So then I'd make her costume. And then another friend would be like, I want to come too. So in the end, like I was making about 5 people's costumes. And I remember I think it was a Comic Con, and we were doing an Alice in Wonderland group, and I had to make everyone's costume. So we had Alice, Red Queen, Mad Hatter, Cheshire Cat, and White Rabbit. And that was honestly like the most challenging thing ever, having to make like 5 costumes for 5 different people with like 5 different body types, and like staying up really late the night before trying to fit everyone. Like I was still sewing everyone's stuff and trying to like fit and fix everything. And it wasn't like just the costumes, it was props as well. So that was like super challenging, but it was really good the next day, like going out as a big group. That kind of made it all worth it. And then I'd say like I made a pit costume for PAX not last not last year, the year before, and I'd never made wings before, so that was super challenging, like trying to figure out how to make the wings. And it was a lot of trial and error because they just like I wasn't using the right wire, and they were like bending in my face, and it was just like awful. It was so bad. And so they took me a really long time to just like figure out how to do it and figure out how to attach them onto me as well. I was like, because Pitt, if you think about his like costume, it's kind of just like a um I don't know, like a little bit of white draped fabric. And I was like, how am I going to conceal like a harness on my back to hold these stupid wings when he literally just wears like a toga? So that was kind of hard to work out. I don't know where to kind of sit it so it wouldn't be shown and all of that. But I'd say like those were kind of my 2 most challenging ones, and they were the ones that had the most work in them, especially like Pitt's bow. I'd
Mm.
never worked with like I wanted to make his bow out of wood because I had previously like made bows and stuff out of paper mache, and they just like over time they just like get so crappy and like break down. So I was like, I want his bow to be made out of wood. I want to be able to like open it up so it can be swords as well. So I had to go to my parents' house, and my dad does woodwork. So I ended up getting him to help me make this bow that could be like detached into swords. But then I had to like Dremel all the detail in and like chisel away. So
Holy crap.
that was kind of like a massive project.
That's insane.
So yeah, I would say Pit was probably like a really hard one, and just the doing all the friends ones was really hard. But I ended up asking a friend. She was like, "Oh, I think I want to learn how to sew," and I'm like, "100%, I'm going to teach you how to sew because I need help." But like, that's one less person I have to make a costume for. So now she's like probably better at sewing than me. She's so good. She showed me a dress she made, and it was so straight. I'm like, "How did you do that?" So, like, thank God for her because she's like saved me so many times now,
Yeah,
like
that's
with
awesome.
costumes.
That's
So.
like you sort of just grow with, I guess, the stuff that you make. You know, like as you get better at it, you learn these new skills, and then you get better at it because you do it more like over and over, and eventually, you know, you become quite skilled in these areas you didn't quite think that you would be. You know, you wouldn't even think you would be doing before. You know, which is really
Yeah,
awesome.
exactly. So it's cool, and I feel like in cosplay, like you just learn so many different skills. Um, so I feel like I can kind of do everything now. Like literally, like if you were like, you make this, I'll be like, yep, I can do that, no problem. And I probably have all the supplies for it in my hoard at home as well. So
No, that's awesome. Now, I guess for like some more perspective, so it's like I'm glad you really enjoy it, and for I guess for other people that may not know much about like the community of cosplayers, like are they like really supportive and like they're helpful for newcomers that might be interested in trying it out, or is it more
yeah,
something that you sort of done like on your own sort of like agenda, like it wasn't really like a community in that sense?
yeah, like so personally for me, I'm not a huge part of the cosplay community. Like I've made a lot of friends at conventions and things like that, but I'm not like an active member. I don't go to meetups and things like that.
Hmm.
It was more I just wanted to do it for myself and for friends. But there is like a Facebook page called Melbourne Cosplay Community, and they're super helpful. Like I've asked so many questions on there, and everyone has helped me like figure stuff out and everything like that. So the community is like super supportive. Obviously, there's like every community is going to have like drama. Not everyone's going to get along and stuff, but it's kind of like it's never affected me because I'm never like deeply in it, like
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
community to be affected. So yeah, for a newcomer, I think if you just go in there, like looking for help and stuff like that, and like you're not going to get turned away or anything like that. Like they're super supportive, they're super open for new people. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
No, that's awesome. That's good to hear. You know, I mean, it's not probably something I'll be looking to do personally. Um, I need to
If you could do like a cosplay though, who would you do? Like what would be your ideal like costume?
see. For me, like I always had the mentality. This was like way back when I was actually fit. I'm like, I'm just gonna get huge and be like Ryu or something, you know,
Oh,
um,
yeah.
because it's easy. um, but then I never got that big, and oh, I got big, just fat. So that was never gonna happen. And then I sort of
I love
gave
when
up
you're
on the
like, oh
idea.
yeah, it's easy to be Ryu, but you probably got to go to the gym and do like massive weights for like years to get to like Ryu's like size.
I just need to travel around like the country with a knapsack and just train every day for like 6 years and just come back. And then I'll
Yeah.
actually, you know, look like Ryu, you know, potentially. Um, yeah, no, like honestly, it's something I've always like enjoyed it, and I always found it really interesting. Especially like there's a lot of technical stuff going on with like how they make the stuff, like how they make their costumes, and especially props and things like that. I've always found that really interesting. For me, as someone that's like played Dota and I've went to like the international and stuff in like overseas, like the cosplay competition for that's like insane. Like we're talking about like not animatronics, but like they've got like stuff that moves in there, like a lot of electronic stuff going on as well. And just like this is insane. Like it's gone like a whole another level up, and you're just like, how did you do all this? And how did you like bring this from overseas? Like because everyone's traveled there, they've got all this gear that they've made for their cosplayers, and they've taken it to the event, and it's like I spent like 300 hours making this. And just like how has it happened? Um, but it's all like it's really cool. So I hope if people are interested, get involved. If not, just support it when you do it in like attending events because it's. I think I don't know how you feel, Aaron. Do you enjoy when people come up to you and say they like it's really awesome what cosplay you've brought in or things like that?
Yeah, I mean, like I usually dress up as guys, so it's like my main goal is to make people think that I'm a man. And so when they do, when they come up to me and they're like, "Oh my god, I love you," and then I'm like, "Thanks," and they're like, "Oh, what the heck? Like, you're not a dude." I'm like, I feel so proud. I'm like, yes. I dress up as like Gaston from the Beauty and the Beast live action um movie, and so many times like girls have just like run up to me and been like, "Oh my god, I love you," and so yeah, it feels really good.
It's a good ego boost too. That's like
It is.
added bonus.
Yeah. Or like I dressed up as Napoleon Dynamite. I had like a huge, like my whole family dressed up. So my mum was Uncle Rico, which was awesome. And yeah, everyone thought I was a dude. And I'm like, this is the best compliment ever.
That means like you've hit the nail on the head, there. Like if you're getting that, like you've literally done your job. Like you are
Yeah.
that person.
Exactly. So
That's
yeah, I
nuts.
feel like mine aren't like I don't use a lot of. I've never used animatronics. Like that's probably one of the skills I like. I just do not have. And I see people like having the wings that like open and close, and I was like, oh
Mm.
my god, that is amazing. And I've watched tutorials on it, and I'm like, I just don't think like I can do that. I feel like you need like you need to major in engineering or something to be able to figure that out. I'm just like, these people are crazy.
Yeah, it's like the blending of like two different passions, right? It's like, I happen to know how things work, and I've studied it. But
Mm,
also I like to dress up and stuff. So having wings and stuff like that's always been insane to me. Just like being able to open them and close them as you please. You're just like, that is
yeah.
so cool. Um, where was I gonna go? The last sort of, I guess overall, what was your favorite cosplay that you've made so far?
Um, I would say like because it's kind of hard. Like I have favorite cosplays that I've made, and then favorite ones to wear. So I would say like my favorite one. I'm working on. I've just like lost my train of thought. Poison Ivy. I'm working on Poison Ivy at the moment, and she's really fun because I really like sculpting the plants and stuff that she has, like all the props.
Yeah.
So she's been really fun, and I did enjoy making the Gaston one because it was kind of so intricate. I'd never made like a huge jacket and stuff before, so that was
Hmm.
cool. But I really like wearing Rick from Rick and Morty because you can literally just like go around and be a dick to everyone. So good. I remember like I was at the convention, I was literally just like flipping everyone off and like, giving everyone the finger and being like, just I don't know, it was great. So this little kid would come up and I'd be like, rah, just like kind of yeah, put my finger up at him. So I think he's one of my favorite, and also Napoleon's one of my favorite because like I just love doing it with my family, and um it's really funny because like Napoleon Dynamite, it's quite old now as a movie. I think it
Hmm.
came out in like 2006 or something. So not like you don't get like as recognized, but when you do get recognized, it's awesome. So yeah, I would say those are my two favorite ones to wear.
Yeah, it's definitely got a cult following. It's like you know it or you don't sort of thing with Napoleon Dynamite. Like at this point,
Mm,
anyway. I mean, for me, um, I felt like everyone knew it when I was in school. Um,
yep.
but then now it's like I don't think most of the kids would have a clue what was going on there.
Yeah. It's such a good movie. If you guys haven't seen Napoleon Dynamite, watch it. Like my friends and I, we absolutely love it. I have one friend, and they're just like, I don't get it. Like, I'm like, how can you not get it? It's amazing. It's literally just like a kind of a coming of age movie. It's literally just like kids in high school, pretty much. That's all you need to know. Awkward kids in high school. So how can
um,
you not relate?
yeah, I don't know. My teacher really pushed it for us to all watch it, like when I was in school, and we watched it. I was like, yeah, it's pretty good actually. Uh,
Mm.
it's like,
It's just so weird. It's so random, and like it's kind of a movie like about nothing but something. Like it's so hard to even like describe it.
it gives me like Mean Girls vibes, but like for nerds.
Yeah,
Like in that
yeah.
sense, it's just like that weird movie that like sort of has this cult following, but wasn't like in the grand scheme of things, like it's not going to win an Oscar or anything. But like, you know, it was funny. Like that's the best way to describe it. Um, so yeah, that's Aaron's recommendation. Check it out if you get a chance. Um, I guess uh, for me, like one more perspective on the cosplay sort of thing, is there anyone that like other cosplayers that inspire you with the work you do, or like you just really enjoy the work that they make?
Yeah, there's like a couple of people I follow on Instagram. There's a couple of Australian twins, and they're called like Guzardi Art. I think they go under Instagram, and they're like amazing. They do the best makeup, and because they're twins, they do a lot of like they did Dark Link and Normal Link, and that was amazing. But they've also done Link and Ganondorf, and that's like the best costumes I've ever seen. They were so good to see in person, and just like, yeah, their makeup skills are insane. And I also follow this girl called Alison Tabitha. I think she was one of the first cosplayers I ever followed, and she like makes everything herself, like from scratch, but really cheap. So she's just like, I don't have a lot of money, so I just make everything out of like stuff I find around the house, and like I cast my own like buttons and stuff like that. But she looks exactly like the people. Like she did an Edward Scissorhands costume, and like it was Johnny Depp. Like literally, it was him. So, and then she did the chick from Edward Scissorhands, like the I don't know her name, but like the love interest, and she was literally her as well. So she can do everything. It's really cool.
That's awesome. Like, it's like it's such a skill, and you can take it really far. Like, you can push it, you know, pretty much to the point where you're almost at like costume production level for movies. You know,
Hmm.
so it's always awesome, and you can see that progression happen over time, which is really cool. I guess yeah. So that's I'll wrap up the cosplay part because I also just want to talk about a little bit about the clothes that you make. So you've shared a fair bit of your like the clothes that you've made on your Twitter, and most of them are Simpsons themed, like you mentioned. You are a big Simpsons fan, um, and you also mentioned it's like part of a Simpsons episode. It's like Dollary Dues. That's where it's coming
Yeah.
from. Um, like what sort of got you into like what made you want to make your own designs for your own clothes?
I think it was I used to go to this bar called Beta Bar. It's not a thing anymore, but it was like the greatest bar. It was literally just a nerd bar with games and stuff. So you just paid entry, but then all the games were free. And I used to go there with a bunch of friends, and I was like, oh well, I need some nerdy clothes. Like I was always into Nintendo, but I could never really find like heaps of Nintendo like clothes and stuff. Like, now you can just go to EB Games and they have t-shirts and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And like Black Milk have come out with like Pokemon and Nintendo and stuff like that. They didn't have that back in the day. So the only way to get like Nintendo clothes and stuff was online. And I was like, well, I don't really want to do that because they're coming from America and they'll just take forever. So I was like, I'll just make my own. Like I found Spotlight had really good kind of like superhero fabric, and they had some Nintendo fabric and stuff. So I was like, I'll make my own clothes. And then getting into like the Simpsons stuff was when isolation happened. Because I decorated my Switch to be Homer coming out of the bushes, and I have a Mr. Sparkles like GameCube controller, and I'm like, oh well, once isolation ends, like we're gonna be going to tournaments, we're gonna be doing that, and I'm like, I need outfits to like match my Switch and stuff. So I was like, I'm gonna make some Simpsons outfits, but I couldn't find fabric anywhere. There's literally like no one doing Simpsons fabric apart from like in USA if you wanted to buy like an old Simpsons bed sheet. And so I was like, yeah, I think I'll just paint my own. And so I was like, this will be like a fun project. So I ended up buying heaps of paint before my store shut down. And I just, yeah, painted my own designs onto the fabric. And it was kind of just a fun project to do for a couple of weeks. And then it just got heaps of traction on like Instagram. And so I was like, oh, well, I was just going to do this over isolation, but heaps of people are like, do more, do more. And I was like, oh, okay. So I've just kind of continued on with it. And
That's
like, I had
awesome.
so many like clothes for Simpsons, and I'm like, I've got so much to wear. And then I ended up selling it all. So now I have nothing. So I'm like, have to start again and make my own Simpsons clothes again now.
That's like it's a weird scenario to be in, right? Because it's so unique that like people will want it. You know, like if you're really into The Simpsons and you got that particular scene, like there were so many scenes like I'm just dying because like I remember like pissing myself laughing as a kid when I used to watch it. And then like you just got it on a dress or on a t-shirt, and it's like people will want that. So it's like obviously there was demand for that, and hopefully you
Yeah, I
made
didn't
some good money from it
see it.
too.
Well, yeah, it was kind of like I didn't really like it's kind of hard to say. Like, if I would have actually been working my normal job, I would have made more money because I wasn't factoring my time and stuff. People
Yeah.
just really loved it. I was like, oh yeah, I'll sell it to you, whatever. And so I just kind of sell it to them pretty cheap. Um, because yeah, it was just kind of like a fun thing. And I was like, well, I can't keep it all. If I keep making them, I'm just gonna have like a million Simpsons like clothing. And I was like, as much as I would love that, it's not like, you know, I can't. I just can't wear them to work and stuff like that. It'd literally be like just for tournaments and like going out or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was like, it makes sense to sell them and then just make ones like that I really love to keep. But yeah, so I wouldn't say I made heaps of money off them, but it was fun to do.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I mean, not everything is like for profit, right? Like it's good to do
Mm,
things that you enjoy. Um,
yeah.
and so that's like a little life tip for people in the chat. Like, yeah, like I respect the hustle, but sometimes you got to do things because you just enjoy them, even if it's not always making money. Um,
Yeah, and everyone's like, you got to make more, like, you got to be faster at making them. And I'm like, no, like, I'm just going to go at my speed. I've got a life. Like, I want to go and do other stuff. I don't literally, like, during isolation, I would wake up at 7 a.m. in the morning, go into my art room, make these Simpsons clothes until like 9 p.m. at night. And I was like, yeah, that was fine for isolation because I had nothing else to do. And I'm like,
mm.
but now it's kind of finished. I have other things I would like to do. So I'm sorry, but I'm not gonna like churn out 50 Simpsons like dresses a week.
Yeah, no, that's fair
So
enough. I mean, once it becomes like a job, are you really going to enjoy it as much?
yeah, exactly.
That's fair enough. So with like most of the scenes that I did see from your Twitter and stuff, like they're like from the old episodes that were fairly popular. I think if you talk to anyone about The Simpsons, like I like the old episodes of The Simpsons. But like
Mm.
for you, did you watch like the more recent stuff, or have you been watching it? The new episodes that have sort of been coming out.
Um, Honestly, no. I like the reason I love The Simpsons is because I guess also the memories attached with them. Like I used to watch them with my dad and we'd have dinner on the couch and watch The Simpsons and my mum would be in the background being like, yeah, this isn't funny. Why are you laughing? It's so great. And so it's just kind of like, yeah, I remember watching it with him and we'd laugh at it and stuff like that. So I have really fond memories of like those seasons that I watched when I was at home. And then kind of as soon as I left home, I'd watch it like a little bit, but I guess, like I had uni and I had other things going on. And so I haven't watched like anything probably from like maybe like uh season, I don't know, somewhere between like 15 and 17 or something,
Hmm.
anything past that. And so I've started to like rewatch them now because they're all on Disney. So that's really good because they were never really accessible unless you bought the DVDs. So now that
Yeah,
they're just on Disney, I can kind of put them on in the background when I'm doing other stuff.
that's a good call because I remember I'm pretty sure I watched like the same like select 100 episodes that like Channel
Yeah.
10 would play
Over and over.
every year, like over and over and over. And
Mhm.
it's like you remembered all of them, but it was just like I don't remember. Like I think there was like once a week they'd play like a new episode at like a different time. It was like 7:30 or something instead of like 6 o'clock or whatever it used to be. And I was like, I would never watch it. Um, but yeah, that's like Simpsons is weird like that. That's the thing. It's just like I guess it's like it's a topic. It's trying to be topical, but it doesn't hit the same way as like other shows that do topical like humor do. Like I
Mm.
find like South Park, like that's hit or miss for a lot of people, but like they're pretty good with the topical humor. Like it's like if something happened that week, you're gonna see it in that episode like the week after. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
whereas like The Simpsons, I don't know, it just always felt like it could be hit or miss with the, you know, with that sort of stuff. Whereas like when it was sort of
Mhm.
just baseless sort of comedy, it was like really good. Like it was just like,
Yeah.
but now I think that's just a cartoon thing at the moment where it's like everyone's trying to like there's like some sort of agenda or some sort of thing that they're trying to like push as part of the episode instead of it just being like on
Yeah.
its own merit.
I agree. Which is fine, but yeah, I think I liked the mindless kind of really dumb storyline.
Yeah, I mean sometimes you just don't want to think about things that are happening, like you just need something stupid to like, in that
Yeah.
sense. Um, which is not that common anymore, unfortunately. But overall, do you know what your favorite Simpsons episode would be?
Yeah, I would say that because I love Sideshow Bob. He's my favorite character. And so I love any episode with him, like him and the Rakes. That's just like classic. But my favorite episode is it's called Brother from Another Series. And it's because I used to also watch Frasier, which I is like, don't tell anyone you watch Frasier because it just shows how old you are. And I was like, Frasier is awesome. What are you talking about? And so yeah, I used to watch Frasier with my parents, and in the Brother from Another Series, like because Sideshow Bob is voiced by Kelsey Grammer, and who is Frasier, and in Frasier he has a brother. And so in The Simpsons, Sideshow Bob has a brother, and they actually got the voice, the actor from Frasier to be the brother in The Simpsons. So it was kind of like almost like a cross like series mashup thing. So they had jokes in The Simpsons from Frasier because it was the two actors from Frasier. And it's just, I don't know, it was just really weird and I loved it. So that's probably my favorite. And I also like there's the one called Mr. X, which is kind of, it's not like a newer one from a newer series, but it's not like a super old school one.
Hmm.
And it was where Homer makes his own like gossip website, and then he gets taken to like the secret island. So I don't know if you've seen that one, but
That
I
actually
liked that
sounds.
one because I liked how he makes the website and there's like dancing Jesus on the website, and then he goes like there's the police website and they're like, have you committed a crime? And I think you can only push yes, and then they're like, we're sending a paddy wagon to come arrest you, and he's like, oh my god. So yeah, I don't know, they're just the ones that I like the best.
No, that's fair. I can't say I've watched it to know. Unfortunately, I'm very hit
Oh,
or
you're
miss with
missing
those episodes. Far out. But yeah, the Frasier, yeah, that's old.
yeah.
Because that was like that
But
show like
yeah,
I didn't get because I was like too young. Um,
I mean, yeah, I was pretty young when I watched it. I think I just watched it because my parents watched it, so I don't think I 100% got it. But I just really liked Kelsey Grammer because I was like, it's Sideshow Bob. So yeah, I'd watched it, but I knew the jokes in The Simpsons because I was like, oh well, that's a joke because that happened in Frasier and all this stuff. So I think, yeah, I'm not that old. Like
no, you're
I
not.
was I wasn't like a teenager watching Frasier. Like I was still a kid.
Because that's like how I remember. Like I was like a kid. Like you know what I mean. Like I was
Yeah.
in primary school. Like at some point because that show played for ages. So like it covered a wide period of time, and we're not going to give up too much information in that regard. But I
Mm.
guess we'll move on. So that was really interesting. So if you didn't know much about Aaron, you know a lot more now. That's for sure. At least in these two areas. But we'll get onto the Smash side of things. So Smash beginnings, Brawl question mark, because I actually didn't quite know this until I asked you. So
Okay.
was Brawl your first Smash game that you played like in general, just like even casually, or did you play like Smash 64 and stuff like that?
I have played Smash 64. I was trying to remember. I'm like, I don't think I played Smash 64 before Melee because I didn't really have any friends who played games. I had one friend, but she lived like on we kind of met in primary school and then she moved very like soon after and
Mm.
to like the other side of Melbourne, but we still kept in contact. But she was like my only friend who played like Nintendo or any games. And so I don't think I played 64 because I know I didn't have it. But I just can't remember if she had it or not. But for sure, like Melee, I would probably say that's my first one because I'm unsure about 64. But yeah, I remember seeing it was like a football grand final, and I think in the ads, ad for Melee came on, and I was like, oh my god, it's Link, and I'm like, yeah, because I love Zelda so much. I was like, what's this? Is this a Zelda game? And then it was Smash Bros. I'm like, what the heck? That's Mario. I was like, what's going on there? So yeah, I bought it like as soon as it came out. And because I didn't have anyone to play with, like sad time for me. Like I just played with computers. So I would put it on like a level 9 computer and I was so lazy getting up for school. But what I'd do is I'd be like, if I get up 20 minutes earlier for school, I can play Smash Brothers for 20 minutes before I go. So I'd get up really early and put on Smash Brothers like 20-minute timer. It'd be a free for all, and I'd just like play level 9 computers.
You're just bringing back some like serious memories for me because like when I was, I think I was still. I have two sisters, so like I was fortunate enough that even though none of my friends played Nintendo and it was like not cool to play Nintendo, like my sisters were around, so we'd play like Smash and like anything. Like I'd watch them play games, like, and then if it was a multiplayer game like Mario Party or something, I'd play. But I do
Mm.
specifically remember getting up early for school, and one of my sister's friends would come over, and we'd all just play Melee for like 10, 15 minutes before we had to go to school.
It's
And
awesome.
specifically, I remember that we literally thrashed that game so much that we unlocked Mewtwo with the timer. Like I don't know how many hours you need. It's like I think it's like 1,000 or something. Like it's something really high. It like whatever the skill based thing was, we couldn't do it because we weren't good. So it was just like from playing multiplayer, we eventually unlocked Mewtwo,
Mm.
and we were freaking out because like we didn't know that he was in the game,
Yeah.
and we didn't know he was bad, but it was just really funny. Yeah, when you were talking about that, I'm just like, holy shit! Like this, that just like really resonated with me. Um, so there you go. So that's probably Melee's your first game, and I
I would say,
guess
yeah.
for like the competitive perspective, because like this is like really interesting for me because like competitive Smash is pretty unique. Like it's not something like you would really know about, you know, like it's not just something you just like stumble down the street and be like, hey, like competitive Smash. Like um how did you find out about like Smash being competitive or like there being tournaments and stuff?
Well, at the time, like when I was playing Melee, I like my parents live in central Victoria, so that's where I lived as well. So
Hmm.
I was kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and I'd just be playing Melee by myself. And I remember seeing in the newspaper, like the newspaper has been so good for me and like my hobbies. It's like nowadays it's like, whoa, I was looking on the internet, but I like back in my day, it was I was looking in the newspaper, and I saw like a little ad for a Melee tournament happening at the cinema. I think it was like Hoyts or something,
Holy
but it was
crap.
happening like in the city, and I lived in Central Victoria, and I was kind of like, well, I don't know if my parents will let me go to that. Like I was still kind of young, and um like I really wanted to go. It was like a massive passion of mine. I'm like, I have no one to play with. I want to go. I want to meet people to play with. And I was just kind of like, I think my nerves got to me. Like I was planning to just like go down by myself and stuff, but I kind of got too scared to do it by myself. And I knew my parents like wouldn't come with me or anything like that. So I kind of just like gave up on that. But then I never saw anything about like competitions again for Melee. Like it
Hmm.
just never saw them in the newspaper or anything like that. And I had no idea like really where to even look on the internet because the internet was still kind of like I'm not
It,
going to say a new thing, but like I wasn't very good
it was
at
very
using the
basic
internet,
too
so
anyway.
I didn't know where to even look. So I kind of just like gave up on it. I'm like, I'll just play by myself. And so it wasn't until Brawl um, that I I got the game and it had online. And I was telling you before the podcast started that I actually liked Brawl Online. Like I
Yeah,
thought it was good because yeah, I didn't know any better. So yeah, I really loved. It was like the first time I could play with people, you know, online.
no
Like
actual
even though I didn't
people.
know them, it was yeah. I was like, oh, it's a real person. I get to play like against a real person. So I was doing like that for quite a while, and then I started looking for gaming forums online. I was like,
Okay.
oh, maybe I can find like because I knew like my friend was in a Zelda one. I was like, oh, well, maybe there's a Smash Brothers one or something. And I came across one which was like a website called My Wii, which was dedicated to like the Wii and like Smash Brothers and Mario Kart and all the games. And there was like general chats and stuff like that. And so I joined My Wii and I like went into the Smash Brothers like kind of forum and I was like, hey everyone. And everyone just ignored me because they were like, who is this random? I was like, hey guys. And so it was like I was talking to myself. I'd like ask questions and they'd just ignore me because it's like random person. Because I think they were all kind of like, you know, they'd been on the website for a while and they were like pre-existing friends. And I'm just coming in here being like, what's up? What's good? And they're like halfway through a conversation. So they just like ignore and so yeah, I just kept coming back to the website and just like pestering everyone. And then eventually they were like, "Hey, there's like there's a real life tournament." Because I ended up making some friends on there, and we'd play over MSN. So we'd talk on MSN and like play Brawl online and stuff.
All right,
Because
I'm just going
back
to
then,
interject for a quick second. So,
yeah,
for the young people in the chat and listening, a forum is kind of like Reddit, but like you don't upvote and stuff. It's just like it's in order. So when you type, like you write your message and then it comes up, and then like the post under yours is like just the next thing that's been posted. There's no like upvoting and downvoting like there is now with like Reddit's the closest thing you'll probably get to a forum in 2020. And also is MSN is like Messenger, but you didn't have to use your real identity through Facebook or anything like that, right? You would just make your burner account like email, and you would talk to your friends normally from school or whatever it may be. So just some context, because a lot of these things kind of don't really exist that much anymore. So
Yeah, that's
sorry,
true.
Yuri.
Like there was no voice chat or anything like that. Like MSN was literally, yeah, it was literally like messenger chat, and you could have groups and you could all talk at the same time, or you could talk one on one and stuff like that.
It was
Because I
nightmarish.
don't, yeah, there was no Twitter or anything, and I don't think Facebook was a thing. I think it was
MSN,
MySpace.
yeah, it was MySpace still. What was that other thing called? There was like another similar
Oh,
thing.
there's Skype. There was like Skype, but no one used Skype. I think everyone was just like MSN. That's like the best thing ever.
Yeah, I remember.
And there
Like,
was
no one really used Skype that much
mm,
at that point, anyway.
yeah, it was kind of like MSN, Skype, and then Discord. That was kind of like I feel the evolution of it.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I
So
remember
yeah, we
trying to
used.
organize like Skype calls was a nightmare. Like,
Mm,
you are blessed by Discord. Like, you don't understand. Like, Skype was just a mess to like organize, and you'd have like 500 different groups of like different people. Like, it's like the same people in different variations of that group, because like you couldn't just have like an overall like an IRC and then just have a chat thing associated with like Discord. Um, anyway, so I'm getting old.
no,
I'm getting on the old
yeah,
tangent here.
I remember Skype. I remember like we used to use that when we were playing League of Legends to talk to each other. So, but yeah, it was Skype was terrible. Skype was so bad. Um, so yeah, we used to like talk on MSN and stuff, and I kind of made these friends, and they're like, "You should come to a real life tournament." And I kind of hadn't really like in my like the back of my mind, I think that's what I was looking for, but I was okay with just having like this forum and talking to people on MSN. So when they're like, "You should come to a tournament," I was like, "Ah, okay, yeah." And like I was a super anxious kid. Like I didn't even make my own haircut appointments. Like even as a teenager, never made my own doctor's appointment. Couldn't like I just didn't want to talk on the phone. I was like so scared to talk on the phone. If my mum was like, "Oh, can you quickly run into the shops and get something?" I was like, "No chance. I'm not going in there. I don't want to talk to people." So yeah, like thinking about having to go to the tournament and like see people, I was kind of like, oh my god, I don't know if I can do this. But I think because like I loved Smash Brothers so much and I didn't have anyone to play with in real life, I was kind of like, well, like my love for the game outweighed how scared I was. So I was just like, I have to go to this. I don't care how scared I am. And I just like pushed through. So I went to like the first tournament, and I was telling you before that it was like held at Abbotsford Convent, which is in Abbotsford. And it was just like a nun. Yeah, it's just like a nun convent. And it was huge. It was like these massive churches, and it had the most beautiful gardens. And there was always like market stalls on and stuff. And so I went there. I was like, wow, this is like super bougie. How like how is this a thing? And I remember meeting Leisha on my first day at a tournament. Um, and yeah, I was just kind of like hooked from then. I was just like, this is awesome, awesome like place to go to, awesome people. And so yeah, I just kind of kept on going. But it was really like it wasn't like it was today. It was very small. There was like, I don't know. I showed you a picture of one of the monthlies because we
Yeah.
didn't really have weeklies. There wasn't that. We just played friendlies kind of like we'd meet up at Target, like at the top of Target, there was this little internet cafe, and they gave us like a tiny corner. So we just had like maybe two TV sets up, like set up there, and it was maybe like 5 to 10 people would go. So we'd play like friendlies, but we never had weeklies. So the like monthly tournaments were kind of the major thing, and
Mm.
that's where everyone would go and be like, super competitive and stuff like that. But yeah, it's was really tiny compared to what we have today in terms of like people. Um, the photo that I showed you, it's literally just like a really old school kind of like grainy um, photo, and it's just everyone kind of fits in the one frame. So that's kind of
Yeah, that
Gives you an
was
idea of how big it was.
yeah, like it's still like relatively speaking, like the number of people was more than I probably expected,
Mm,
but it's still not anywhere near as big as like anything that we're doing now. And I think that's just
mm,
like due to the nature of the time, right? It's like I think even at that point, like not everyone even had internet necessarily. Like you know what I mean? Like not everyone had internet at home always. Like I had friends I grew up with that didn't have internet for quite a long time, even though it was like I'm living in the suburbs. It was like your family had it or they didn't. Um, Not
yeah.
everyone had a computer. It wasn't as accessible at that time. But then like slowly, like once laptops became like affordable, um, that's when sort of people like everyone had internet and you can sort of find these things and interact with people a bit easier. Um,
Mm.
I guess. Do you remember much about like how like those sort of tournaments were structured? Were they similar to now, or they completely different, or?
I was trying to remember. Like, I don't. I would assume we had pools. I don't know. Maybe there wasn't enough people, so we had round robin. Like, I can't really remember. I know we had a lot of crew battles. That was like the main thing. Like, we had heaps of crew battles at like every single tournament. Um, but yeah, the structure, I would say, just because there's less people, like it went a lot quicker, I guess. Um,
I mean,
we
it's fair
did
enough.
have majors. Like I don't think it was called BAM, but I remember going to like a major and people from, other states would come down, and it was held at this really it was held at like a really ritzy hotel, but they shoved us in the basement, and the basement had no windows. So it was literally like a dark cave. So you'd go down there and it was a bunch of like sweaty nerds and all these consoles, and it was just dark. It
That's
wasn't like it is today. You know how it's at like the exhibition center or whatever.
mm,
Um yeah, like that's huge and so open and everything. Nah, we were like shoved in like a tiny little area.
that's nuts. Like normally, okay, normally I don't answer like have questions from the chat this early, but I think it's like an important thing to address. Like Smash GG is like what we use right now, right?
Mhm.
Was there like a software or something that you guys were using, or was it literally like you draw it on like the pool and like the bracket onto a sheet, like and
Yeah.
that was how it was? No, I just want to
Yeah,
clarify that because things have changed.
yes, it has. Because we used to use like smash boards to organize stuff. And do like shout outs and stuff. So smash boards was kind of like Twitter at the time, I
Hmm.
guess. That's where people would organize housing and where like yeah, you'd say, thanks and stuff like that. But yeah, trying to remember like and how they did seeding and stuff. I would assume they had a laptop for seeding, but it was a pretty long time ago. Maybe
Yeah.
they didn't. Maybe they did that on paper as well.
I mean,
I don't know.
absolutely worst
Yeah.
case, it was probably like at best probably Excel or
Yeah,
like on Word or something.
maybe. Yeah. I think yeah, but it was all drawn up. It was all drawn up like a table kind of thing for if we did pools.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Mm.
Okay, that was like really interesting. Like that's some perspective for you, friends, because legit, I know nothing about what happened in Brawl because no one really talks about it, and there's not that many members that have been around that long to be able to share that. Um, and I think it's really important that like there's some preservation of that information. Like I'm not saying we need to know everything, but like I guess just to see how much this scene's grown over like such a long period of time, it gives you some real perspective. Um,
Well, it's just yeah, it's kind of sad because there really isn't many Brawl players that have come back. Like I've seen a few, like Leisha, obviously she stayed through like the whole thing, but she's kind of coming to less now. Earl's come back, who was like a huge, Brawl veteran and one of the best
hmm.
players. I've seen a couple people on and off, but they've kind of come to a few and then like I don't know, not come back or whatever, or they're just like, oh yeah, it's just kind of for fun. So when I came, because I took a massive gap between like I left in Brawl like kind of at the end of Brawl, and I didn't come back until kind of the end of Smash 4. So everyone had changed. Like no one was the same apart from Sharp.
Hmm.
So that was kind of a bit of a shock, I guess, because I was like, oh yeah, I'll come back and I'll see people I know. And then I came back and I was like, who are these people?
That's
And like
it.
no one knew who I was. So
And that would be like a surreal sort of feeling, right? Because you're so heavily involved in a scene, and then you obviously
mm,
things happen and you have to take a break, and you come back and it's like literally like no one is the same. It's like what's going on? Like what? How's it changed so much? You know?
Yeah, it was a shock. So and I had like a different name as well. So I had a different name back in Brawl days. I went as Cake Face. That was my tag. And then when I came back to Smash 4, I was like, I think I got to like I didn't realize you guys use like Smash GG or anything. So I came to a tournament and they're like, oh, you're registered on Smash GG. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Because we never had to do that in Brawl days. And so I was like, no. And they like got really mad at me. And they're like, next time you come, make sure you're like registered on Smash GG. We'll do it for you this time. And they're like, what's your name? And I like freaked out. I was like, oh God, I don't know. And so I just made one up on this. Well, I didn't make it up. It was like my Instagram name. So I used Hello Taco. So you've probably looked back to see my like matches and stuff, but I've gone like I used different names throughout kind of all of them. And I left after that tournament. I was like, I don't want to be Hello Taco. I want a different tag. So that's where I like got dollary dues from. But yeah, it was just I remember at that tournament going up to one person. I kind of no, he came up to me and he's like, "Are you Cake?" And I was like, "Oh my god, yeah, hey!" And then I never saw them again. It's like
you
that one time.
you thought you knew someone and then they just disappeared
Yeah,
again.
yes, hello, and then yeah, just never again.
Oh no. I guess like the last sort of thing I guess with the brawl part I want to talk about. So you my presumption I'm making here is that you were playing Lucas from then, right? Like in
No,
tournaments? You weren't. Okay, this is
I was
important.
not. So I actually used to main Pit back in Brawl. So I mained Pit and then my secondary was like Falco, Pikachu, Toon Link. I think I had like Snake and stuff like that. Pretty much like everyone, but I mained Pit. And I loved Pit so much because he had like his move set is pretty different now. But back in Brawl, his side B was insane. Like it was kind of his swords would go around as like a loop and you could trap people kind of like there was no stages that had corners or anything like that, but we had Yoshi's Island that was legal. And because it has the dip at the end, you could use pit side B and go off the stage. And as long as you kept tapping it, he'd keep spinning his swords.
Yeah.
And if you got it just right, like you'd either trap the person or they'd be off stage and they couldn't get back. And so I was just like, Pit is so troll. Like that move is the best thing ever. And it was yeah, his recovery was like insane as well. I reckon he had the best recovery in the game. He had his like 5 jumps or whatever it was, 4 jumps or something. But then his up B was kind of like, you know how now it's just a kind of directional one and you just have to push it and you
Yeah.
know it goes to a ledge or whatever. It wasn't like that. It was like you could fly, but you got to control where he flew. So you could literally fly like wherever you
Because
wanted. And
he
it'd
had the
last
glide, right?
forever.
Like you'd actually
Yeah.
just
And then he
glide,
also
yeah.
had the glide.
Oh wait, was that? Oh, you're right. It actually was separate to the glide. Like, oh yeah, because he had the wings, and the wings would flap and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now it's come back. Holy crap!
You could either do like your 4 jumps and then you could do up B, which was like the flying around, or you could do your 4 jumps and then if you held B, he would glide, and then you could still do moves out of the glide. So you could kind of glide in and then do like forward air or whatever, or like you'd land and have pretty much no lag and stuff like that. So he was like OP. He was so good.
There you go. Because for me, it was like Omega Casual. Like, no idea what was going on. Like, I learned about chain grabs just out of like coincidence, but I didn't know why it was good. I just thought it was funny. So there you go. Because that was like something I was like really thinking about. It's like that's a character that's been through the whole sort of series, like from Brawl till now. Like Lucas has been all the games. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna make that assumption, but you're definitely proving me wrong.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think because with Pit, like I did Pit for ages, and then I actually went to Peach and I mained Peach for ages. So yeah, it was Pit at the start, and then Pit became my secondary, and Peach was like my main. But I actually had no idea who Lucas and Ness was. I was like, who is these weirdo characters? Even in Melee, I was like, what the hell? Why is there a little boy? Like, what's he from? I swear I played every Nintendo like game ever, and I have no idea who he is. And so yeah, in Melee, not Melee, in Brawl, I was just like, I don't know who you are, like get out of my sight. But then I saw Leisha playing him because she used to main Ness and Rob. Um, and I was watching Leisha play him in doubles, and I was like, "What the hell? Like, why would you choose that character? Because he's like recovery." I was like, "What the heck?" I'm like, "That recovery is messed up. Why would you ever choose him as a character?" But I was like in such awe of her playing him because I was like, I can't believe she can recover. Like, that's so cool. She's the coolest person ever. I want to be her. And I was like, next game, I'm gonna at least learn Nest. I was like, because I didn't yeah, because she played Ness, and I don't think anyone really played Lucas. There might have been like one person, but because yeah, she was playing Ness, I was like, I want to play Ness. I want to see like how she's able to recover because that's like bad. And so in Smash Four, I actually mained Ness and Mario for
Okay,
like
yeah,
a
because
really long
we
time.
have to remember that if you don't know, guys, like Lucas was DLC, so he wasn't
Yeah.
available from the start of the game.
Yeah, so I mained Ness, and then when Lucas came out, I was like, oh, well, he's pretty much Ness, but like with cooler hair. I was like, look at his hair, and he's got a snake. I'm like, hell yeah. And so I was like, I'll give him a go, whatever. And he had like the Ranger skin, and I was like, yes, it's me. It's literally me as a boy. So I was like, I'm gonna give him a go, and just he just felt like it just clicked. Like I really liked playing Ness, but I don't know, just something clicked with Lucas, and I was like, yes, this is the character for me. So yeah, ever since he came out as a DLC for Smash 4, I've mained him since then.
There you go. We've got the true lore, not the fake lore that I made up in my head, where you just main Lucas the whole time. It's like there's actually like a story to go behind it. Probably not as boring as me. It's like, oh, I played all the characters, and this one was the easiest one to get into Elite Smash, so I played Rob. Um, that's actually a cool story.
Well, I'd never like I didn't even hear about Mother. Like I had no idea what that game was or anything like that until I started playing Lucas, and I'm like, oh well, I better kind of like look into what this game is. So I watched people stream it and stuff, and I don't know which one it was. I guess the first one, but it was really like weird. It was just like such a weird game, and I'm like, what's going on? I was like, watching the guy stream it. I'm like, I have no idea what's happening right now. But yeah, so I've still never played the Mother game. So everyone, whenever I play like someone new, they're like, ah, you play Lucas, you must really like the Mother games. I'm like, yeah, I never played them.
Sure,
So
I strongly would recommend at least giving Earthbound a shot because, like,
mm,
for people like I found like it resonated with me well because it's like very 90s.
yeah.
Probably not the best game, like to today's standards. There's like a lot of annoying like old RPG problems, but it's like I don't know. There's a lot of throwbacks and stuff that makes you just feel like I remember this. It's just like even just like it not being like a typical JRPG is cool. Like the fact that it's like you're literally a kid in America because there's like burgers everywhere and stuff like that. Like
Mm.
yeah, it's worth a shot. It's not a very long game, so like if you ever get a chance, I'd recommend it. I haven't played Mother 3 or anything. Or the first one. The first one just looks a little bit too dated for me, but I feel like Earthbound itself is just like it's got a charm to it. I really like the way it looks, and it yeah. Anyway, that's just me spilling my like fanboy like
Yeah.
Mother spill. But anyway,
I think I should play the one with Lucas in it so I can be like, ah, okay. So then I kind of just know at least like where he's come from and what his story is and stuff. Because right now I'm just like, yeah, I love Lucas because he's got like a Ranger skin and he's got PK freeze, and I love like freezing people off the stage, and he's got a snake. So that's like
hey,
my reasoning. And
if
people are
it
probably like, what
works,
the hell? You're a fake fan.
no, if it works, it works. Like, look, that's the best part about Smash. It's like I think I've tried so many games because of it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't know half these characters, and like, this
Mm.
character looks cool, and then it's like, before you know it, I'm like, gone down the rabbit hole of an entire series because like I played this character once in this game. So it's very good marketing. I'll give it that much.
Okay. Yeah.
I guess like what we'll go into now is like your tournament experiences. So I've done some research, and like you've said, you've made this difficult for me given that you've changed names. Um, I couldn't like because I didn't know about that name change. I couldn't really research much further back.
Yeah,
But
sorry. I should have told you. I just completely forgot.
no, that's okay. Like, look, I try and see how far I can dig with what information I had. Like for Deku, it was really funny. Like I just had to find like a TO that does all those Wi-Fi tournaments, and I just literally went as far back as like they started TOing Wi-Fi events, and just tried to find his name. And I went like way further back than I thought it was. Like, what the hell? Like, so I tried to do the same, but it was much harder. But the first tournament I could find on record was a tournament called Holy Monday 2, which was in Smash 4 in March. I have no idea about this tournament. I have no idea where it was. Do you remember anything about it?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was so good. I mean, this was like in Smash 4 days. So it was kind of coming to the end of Smash 4. There wasn't a huge amount of people going. So it
Mm.
was really tiny, kind of picture pixel, but like 15 people, if that. And it was held at like a bar opposite Glen Ferry Station. And it was really like kind of dark and cool. And we just had all these setups there. So yeah, it was just a really kind of intimate, I don't know, Smash setup. So I used to just go because I worked kind of like in the next station along, so it was really easy for me to get to after work.
Mm.
So I'd just go there, like didn't really know anyone, but we got to know each other pretty quickly because there was only like a handful of us. So yeah, I had a really good time there. It was sad that they had to close it.
Oh, it's always unfortunate when stuff like because you sort of
Mhm.
get attached to a place like with that sort of
Yeah.
event. That's unfortunate. And I guess like so like this sort of section, I'm just talking about general tournaments. So I was looking at different tournament names and stuff that we might have now, and just sort of to get that comparison and contrast to like how it is now versus then. So that one was just like one I didn't even know existed. So that was really interesting. The next one I want to talk about was EBS. So I looked this up. You went to like some of the really early EBSs, like at least at Zen, I believe it was. Like I think it was held somewhere else before that. Um, but this one I think like went on Smash GG. I think it was at Zen. So
Mhm.
um, like that's generally considered in Vic like one of the try hard tournaments. You know, it's like everyone sort of comes from everywhere and like tries their best. Where like there, like what I could see, it looked like it was quite small. Like there wasn't that many people. Do you remember much? Like, was it considered like a try hard tournament, or was it still more casual? In a sense.
No, I'd say it was pretty try hard. Like everyone seemed pretty intense. It was like I just went to that one because it was really close to where I worked.
Mm.
So yeah, because I ended up getting a new job and it was kind of right in the city, and I was like, oh well, now holy moly, like Holy Monday's gone. There's this one called EBS. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty close. I'll just go there. But yeah, it was pretty intense. I can't remember if they had amateurs that early on. But I think they did, and that's why I kind of stayed because I'd get knocked out pretty quickly, and I was like, well, they've got amateurs as well, so it's kind of worth my time. But yeah, it was pretty. I don't really feel like it's like lost its intensity. It's just kind of been like intense the whole way through.
Okay, so maybe it's more so like a timing thing, like you said, like the game was sort of getting to the late part of its life, and it's probably less people
Yeah.
still involved in the game, or I don't know if that was like at the Bayo point or anything like that. I don't really remember. I wasn't involved with that part. I stopped playing Smash 4 like after Ryu got announced, and that was pretty much it. I got very involved with uni and stuff, so it's like no idea how any of this stuff was going. Uh, the next one I was going to talk about was GG Easy. Like that's a pretty popular one here. The combination of Smash and drinks is just always going to be a good time, generally speaking. And that was one of the first. I think that was the first one, like the first GG Easy they had that you attended. Um, do you know if that's changed much, like in comparison to now?
I think that's still pretty much the same as well. It's changed personally for me because when I started going, I had no friends. So it was kind of like I'd go and play my games and then, get knocked out. And I'd be like, well, I guess I'll go home now. But I feel like now, well, not right now because of, COVID and stuff.
Yep.
But before this hit, it was kind of a bit better personally for me because I actually had friends that I'd made, so I could stay longer and actually like play friendlies and hang out and just have a good time. So from memory, it's always been pretty similar. It's just, yeah, personally, it's changed for me in that way.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think over time things change too. Like I could say that even for myself. Like going to an EBS in my early days was like I've got to try and do my best, and I've got to get the best results. And then like sort of as I sort of went on, it was more like, hey, I just want to see my friends that I can't see when I like go to Sunshine because it's too far, you know. And that just changes like as you get to know more people. So I can understand that. Um, so we've focused a lot on the past now, but yeah, thinking towards more the present. What events do you normally go to, like generally speaking, and what ones are your favorites to attend? When they're running, I must say, given the circumstances.
Um, like I got super into it before like ISO hit and everything like that. So I was going to like as many as I could. I'd go to Pixel like when I could on the Mondays because it was right near my work. And so it was kind of like if I was working, I could go straight after. But if I wasn't working, because I lived like quite far away, I'd give it a miss. So I used to go to Pixel when I was working. I'd try to go to EBS all the time. GG Easy, I really liked that one, so I went to that. When we had the Sunday one, I can't remember what it was called.
The Bowls
It
Club.
was at Bob Club, yeah.
That's Stay
Um,
Smashed.
yeah, so I used to go to that until I kind of moved, and then I didn't really go to that one anymore. And
Mm.
then the monthlies I'd go to, and then when Smash at Swanston started up, I'd go to that as well. So I was going to like, Pixel on Monday, EVS on Tuesday, SAS on Friday, GG Easy on like Saturday. So I was going to at least like 3 a week for a good couple of weeks.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, I think probably like Smash at Swanston ended up being my favorite just because we used to go out to dinner, like after everyone was knocked out and kind of it was finishing up. We'd be like, yeah, let's go out to dinner. So we'd go out to dinner and just be like a really nice time. So, and plus that like competition was free. So not only could you just go and kind of have fun, you also got like, I just found it to be the most like sociable one, I guess.
Mm.
So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah,
But I
I'm a
really
huge
like
fan.
GT Easy as well because it's just a really cool vibe. And Pixel has like the best toasted sandwiches ever, so I really liked Pixel too.
Yeah, if you're
so
if you're
yeah,
18 plus at the moment, and you can sign up for Pixel before it caps, yeah, definitely give it a sus because they do make some pretty good food there. The milkshakes I'm a big fan of too. Um,
yeah,
and if you
yeah,
live close and you don't have to drive, you can get a drink too.
yeah, exactly. It's just like an all rounder. It was kind of like awkward for me to get home to after it though, because I have to catch a bus to a different station and then a train home. And when I first started going to that tournament, I'd catch the bus in the wrong direction because the bus would stop at the same, because it was like the station stop.
Ah, yep.
It'd stop at the same spot. And so I'd just get on and be like, that's the number. This is what time it's supposed to be here. And I'd get on and it'd go the other way. And I'm like, no. So that was the only bad thing. If you're going by public transport, like make sure you maybe ask the bus driver because so many times, I would say like 3 to 4 times, I've caught the bus the wrong way.
Yeah, that's something you don't want to happen, that's for sure.
No.
All right, guys, I'm just gonna do a very short break. I just need to double check some things quickly. So just please hold on and enjoy the intro music in the meantime. All right, and we're back. All right, so transitioning from where we were talking on about before for our locals, I want to focus a little bit on your major experiences. So, did you attend any of the majors that happened in Brawl? Or like, I guess for perspective, was it really sort of like a major thing, or was it more like people coming down like from other states when there was monthlies and things like that?
We did have majors. I never went to the majors in other states, though. I only kind of went to the one that was in Melbourne. So I know they did have them. I just never went to them. But the ones in Melbourne were good. Like we did have quite a lot of players come down from other states and stuff like that. So yeah, it was. They were pretty big from memory.
Okay.
But yeah, I only went to the ones in Melbourne.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I guess it's also like an age thing at that time. Probably wasn't, you weren't necessarily going to be willing to travel interstate for stuff like that, you know. um,
Yeah, I think I was pretty poor, so I had no money. I
yeah,
wasn't going to win either, so it's not like I could have won back my money. So, yeah, I think it was pretty safe that I stayed in Melbourne.
I'm trying to think like back then. I think also just in general, flights were a lot more expensive as well.
Yeah, they were.
Like now, it's like you can go to like Sydney and like Adelaide and stuff for like $100 or $50 or whatever. And like then it was like I remember like we'd go visit family in Darwin and it would cost us like $600 return or something. It was like insane. It's like you can go overseas for the same price as like going interstate. It was ridiculous. So I can
Hmm.
definitely
Well, I don't
resonate
think we
that.
had. I don't think we had Tiger or Jetstar either back then.
Yeah, I'm
So
pretty sure it was literally
I
just
think it
like
was.
Qantas.
Yeah, exactly. It was like Qantas and Ansett. Do you remember
Oh
Ansett?
god, yeah, before it collapsed. Jeez.
Yeah, so it was literally Ansett and Qantas. So yeah, flights definitely weren't cheap because you had to pay top dollar for like the Qantas and stuff like that.
You really had to want to go, and like you'd
Yeah,
probably want to stay
exactly.
for a couple of weeks if you're going to pay that much. Okay, so I guess the next thing I'll point out. So I guess from my research, I found you attended BAM 10. Um, do you remember what your experience was like there?
Yeah, BAM's actually held on my birthday, or it was. I think they were going to change it this year when it was going to happen. But yeah, the last 2 years it's been on my birthday weekend. So I had a great time. I like booked a hotel and stuff to stay in the city. My friends were really not pleased with me because they're like, "What are we going to do for your birthday?" And I'm like, "I don't know what you're going to do, but I'm going to be playing Smash Brothers." And so they'd be like so annoyed. Um, but yeah, it was great. I just stay in the city, go play Smash, like go to Brunswick Street, eat food there and stuff. So I had a great time. Um, that was kind of like I'd only been back at competitions for about like 2 months or so, I think, at that point, because I came back in March 2018 and it was, in May.
Mm,
So I didn't have many friends. I think that's where I met Vine Green for the first time at like band 10. I only really knew like because I used to go to Beta Bar who had Smash Brothers there and they used to do competitions and stuff.
yeah.
And so that's where I met like Havoc and Catburger, Crozzy a few times, Jim, which I can't like pronounce his tag, so just Jim. And yeah, so I kind of only knew them. And so I went to BAM and I just kind of played my games and it was still like a great time, but I didn't hang out as much at BAM 10
Mm.
because I didn't really know anyone. So I didn't go to the after party or anything like that. I kind of just like did my thing and then left.
I mean,
So, but
that's understandable.
I'm from memory. Yeah.
No, that's cool. Like I guess just for perspective, right? Like the main reason I asked that is just like it's you know that's something that's sort of frequent, and I wanted to get your perspective now for BAM 11, which I missed out because I didn't know about Smash and its existence until the week after. So my first local was the local after BAM. So at Sunshine there was literally 8 people, because everyone was like completely destroyed from like the whole weekend of BAM 11. Um,
Yeah.
but you attended that. you know, did you feel like that event itself improved much from the previous, or was it the same, or like was it more an experience thing that made it like good or bad?
It was kind of like it's really hard because I did have a lot of fun at BAM 11. However, the Smash setup area absolutely sucked. Like it was so bad. It was so crammed into a corner. and the tables were so tightly together that like you were almost on top of each other and you couldn't really get to your pool. So I had a friend who I brought and I was like, oh, come play Smash. You know, it was his first tournament and he couldn't find his pool and he found like the pool. I was like, you have to ask. I'm like, I don't know where it is. You have to ask. So he asked his like some pool captain and they're like, oh yeah, it's just around here. Just wait around here. But because his pool was right in the middle and he couldn't get to it, like they just DQ'd him. And
Uh,
then it turned out that there was like, I don't know, let's say there was 7 people in his pool, just like 4 people were DQ'd because no one like could find the pool and get to it and stuff. So he had a really bad like he had a really bad time and I felt so bad because he'd paid all this money and he didn't even get to play because they just
yeah.
DQ'd him. So it kind of ruined it for me as well a little bit because he's such a troll player. He just like plays Kirby and like up brick, or he plays like Sonic and just runs away. And I honestly just wanted to see him troll people. So I was really sad that he didn't get to like troll people. But I think the next day it was a bit better. Like I do remember like playing a lot of friendlies and stuff, and they had that girls like the women's only tournament. So
That's
that
right.
was I know got so much slack online. People are like, "Oh, why is there a women's only tournament? Why isn't there a men's only tournament?" And it's kind of like, "Come on, mate! Like the whole tournament is pretty much like a guys' tournament."
It's like,
It's
yeah,
like
I don't
just
think it's a problem
help.
in this scenario when it's like
Yeah,
95% male
yeah,
competitors. But
yeah.
yeah,
So that was
that's
pretty cool that they added that in as well.
yeah, I just don't see that really taking away from anything, you know. Especially like if it's not impacting how the tournament's being run, then there's no issue with it as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
wasn't at all. It was on a Friday. So it wasn't even, I'm pretty sure it was on a Friday. Yeah, it wasn't even when like the main tournament was. So I don't know.
Just people
People like to
being
complain, I think.
yeah, I think so. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, that's interesting. I guess I because I didn't I'm waiting to attend my first spam, and it's like a TBT at this point. Like if it's going to be this year
Hmm.
or when,
Yeah.
sort of scenario. So hopefully I'll get to see it for myself and see if it's good, bad, or whatever it may
I hope so.
be.
I think it is really fun. And I think that's where I met Aya the first time as well, was BAM 11. So yeah, and I remember he was like just bagging himself and he's like, I'm the oldest person here. Like, I'm so old. And then I was like, how old are you? And he told me, and I'm like, I'm older than you. So then it's like, whoops.
There's people listening here that are like trying to do the math now.
Yeah, you'll never know. It's a secret.
It's a secret, so you're not allowed to know. You can.
I'm old enough to like be watching Frasier, so kind of add that into your calculations.
Goodness. I guess now there's events that we've both been to. Now I think we've both been. Did you go to two majors last year?
I went to the Queensland one. Um, what's the Queensland one
Was
called
it Sunny
again?
Side Up or Metashift?
Yeah, Sunny Side Up. That's it.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah. So I went to Sunny Side Up, and then I went to Big Cheese.
yep.
Um,
That's the one I went.
and
I went there as well, and
yes, and then the Sydney one. So I've been to 3.
yeah, I mean it was Phantom.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so I think that was just like a little too early in the timeline for me. It was like I just sort of figured out what Smash was, and like I knew people, but I was like I can't really justify flying interstate to play game
Mm.
just yet. Um, and I knew everyone that went had a really good time. Like I'm not missing this again. I'm going to the next thing. Um,
Yeah.
and that ended up being Big Cheese. Now that was like I'm trying to think of like what's the best way to describe it. Like, how did you feel like at that event? And like what was the vibe for you there? Because like for me, it felt like it was serious, but it also felt quite chill. I don't know if it was just like the venue or not, but it was like it just felt kind of homely in a way.
Well, I think because I treated those as kind of holidays as well, so I went pretty relaxed. And yeah, the venue was really cool. I liked how they had melee on like one level, and then they had ultimate on a different floor because it was held at a university.
Hmm.
So that was pretty like yeah, it was pretty chill, and everyone was like super friendly. I remember going up and being like, "Oh, hey, I just wanted to like when I got knocked out of the tournament, I went to go." Do amateurs, and I'm like, oh hey, I just wanted to do amateurs, and they just cut me off. And they're like, yeah, we know who you are. That's fine. Like, okay, great. So everyone was like, yeah, everyone's super friendly. It was fun. Like as my second major, I had a really good time. I think uh it helped that the weather was really nice as well. So
At least the
it was
first
kind of
day, it was fantastic.
yeah,
It was so nice. I had such like
yeah, it was
I
really
really
good.
appreciated it being hot, but not like ridiculous. But the Sunday
Mhm.
was cursed.
Yeah, it was. Yep. I think
Like
I didn't stay for very long. I just did my amateurs bracket and then I was like, see ya.
I don't blame
Didn't
you.
even stay for like finale. I was just like, I'm not sitting in there. Bye.
It was so
So
bad. Like, cause I played like I still had I was in losers, but I was in pro bracket, so I was like I had to play my game. I had to play one game on one. I was like, thank God, like it wasn't just a fluke that I made it through pool. So like that was like my mentality. It's like anything from this point was like fine, but I was like dying, and then I had to play on stream, and it was just like extremely uncomfortable. Like I hate the heat like a
hmm
lot. Like 30 is like the only reason I like warm weather is when I'm inside. But
and
like
there's air.
yeah, where was the air conditioning? Because it didn't exist, and it was like it basically may as well have been outside, bar the fact that there was shade above us, and it was 40 degrees, and I was just like sweating out of control. That was like the only thing I could like hate about that event was the fact that the weather was bad on the last day. But all in all, it was really fun. Um,
Yeah, I think I went back to my hotel room and I was like watching the stream in my air conditioned room.
that was definitely the
Yeah.
play. I can tell you that
Yeah.
much because it was a sweatbox and it was gross. Um, Was there anything like in at that event that you particularly enjoyed? Like even if like whether it was in the event itself or like just something that happened outside when you're like hanging out with people?
I remember watching stream. I think it might have been on the Saturday, and it was like a Yoshi and a Simon, a Yoshi and a Simon player. And it was really funny because like the everyone watching was super hype, and the Simon, would hit Yoshi, and when it zooms in when they're gonna die,
Hmm.
so it does the like, and then you think they're dead. He did it to the Yoshi, and everyone was like, yeah. But the Yoshi didn't die, and everyone's like, oh. And then he did it again, and everyone's like, yeah. And he didn't die again, and everyone's like, oh. And so, just like, so fun. And I think it happened like 3 times before he actually killed him. So that was
Jeez.
hilarious. And then I think also like in my main bracket, I versed like a Palatina, and he beat me, and then I had to play him round one in amateurs bracket, and I was like, I reckon I can beat him this time. And he went in so cocky. He was probably like, yeah, I'm just gonna beat this girl because I've beat her before. And then I ended up like beating him really badly, and he was so angry. And I was like, hell yeah! I'm like, this is great. So it felt pretty good.
That's always good. It's like poetic justice in a way.
Yeah.
You can never be too confident. I learned that the hard way with Vine Green because I played Vine Green twice at a SAS before the Rambat, and I beat him both games. And then I had to play him at the Rambat for like top 8, and he literally destroyed me. Like, and I was just like,
Did you go into it being like, yeah, I've got this?
oh, like there was a bit of like, okay, I know he's not stupid. Like he's gonna like do the research, right? But at the same time, it's like I've just like that was the one we had the crew battle. So I played doubles. I did the crew battle, and I was playing singles. So by the time we got to that point of the night, I was already like mentally drained. And then you're playing a Pac-Man where you have to like
Yeah.
actually think, and I'm like, I don't have the capacity to do what I need to do to like play this matchup properly anymore. And it showed because I just got destroyed, and I was like, oh. But yeah, basically, the moral of the story is never get too cocky because stuff like that can
Yeah,
happen.
exactly. Yeah.
So the final event that we had before ultimately COVID became COVID and stopped everything from happening was Phantom 2020. How was that event for you? Because for me, the event itself was fantastic, but like everything else outside of the event sucked. For me personally.
Mm.
So I just wanted to see if you had a different experience that I did, because I think mine's heavily weighted by the fact that everything outside the event itself sucked. So hopefully you had a better time than I did.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that because I had a great time. So I feel a little bit bad, like talking about how awesome it was
No,
because I did
please
hear the
do.
stories from you guys, and I'm like, oh my god. Do you know I almost stayed with you guys because Ben and Jay, like we were trying to organize. like rooms and stuff, and they were like, oh, we've already found a place. And I was like, what the hell? I'm like, you were supposed to tell me. And they're like, oh, but that's okay because you can go with like Mod and like Nate and stuff like that. And I was like, I don't know them though.
Yeah, that's
I
fair
was like, I
enough.
don't really know them. And I was like, okay. I'm like, I'll do it, like whatever, I just want to go. um and then they're like, I think I was like, what do you, I was like, oh no, don't worry, we found a house, so it's fine. I think they found a house with like an extra room or something.
Okay.
So yeah, I almost went with you guys and probably would have had a really like bad
I'm
time
so
too.
glad you
So
didn't have to suffer from through that because that was awful. If you didn't know, people, like the house that I had for the Airbnb, whoever was there last didn't clean it. The cleaner didn't clean the house. I got there early and she basically did not clean. There was supposed to be a pet rabbit that was dead. That
yeah,
the
I think
cleaner,
I would have cried just like the whole time
because
I
I'm
was
looking
there.
for this rabbit for the whole weekend. Yeah, it's like, well, maybe they've taken it somewhere or something, you know. And then it's just like, no, it's just dead. The cleaner has no idea that this rabbit even exists because it's a new cleaner. I left it literally the same way I found it, and then they were like complaining about like we left it in a mess. Like literally, how I found it is how I left it because I assumed that's how you wanted it. You know, I'm not gonna be cleaning up the house to make it look better than it was when I got there. Like the whole thing was just awful, like such a shit
Yeah,
experience.
that's really bad.
And then we got
So
locked out of that house too. So it's just like literally
yeah.
everything that could go wrong went wrong.
Well, thankfully I wasn't there.
Yeah, no, I'm
So
glad you didn't have to deal with that. But thankfully, I popped off at that event and I did really well
yeah.
because otherwise, I literally would have just like went into depression after that because that was so
Yeah.
bad.
I know, yeah, I remember you guys talking about it. I was like, oh god.
Yeah, so
So yeah, I had a good time. Like I went with Jay, Ben, Aya, Dan, and Princess.
yep.
And so we, and I know Dan talked about it and he's like, it sucked. Like it's like Jay and Ben were just party, party, party. But like, yeah, I didn't think it was going to be super party. I thought maybe we'd go on like the Sunday and that'd be our party time. But we like partied the whole weekend. But it like started out really bad. And I think this kind of set it up for that to happen because we ended up missing the flight. Like on the
Oh
Thursday, we were supposed to
yes.
fly up and we got to the airport and like on the app it said our flight was delayed. Like on the, I don't know if we were flying with Tiger or what, but on
Hmm.
the app said your plane is delayed by like 40 minutes or whatever. So we're like, oh yeah. And we got there really early as well. And we're like, let's go have dinner. So we went and had dinner and we are just like chilling. And then I think we were checking Twitter and P9 was tweeting and being like, I'm on the plane. And we're just like, hang on, I think P9 was supposed to be on our plane, but that's weird that he's on the plane because it's delayed, right? And we were kind of like a bit confused. And then he's like taking off and we're like, what the hell? And so we checked and the apps like said it was delayed, but the actual like board said it wasn't delayed and they were calling our names, but because we were in a totally different area, like we were in Grilled having food, so we didn't hear our names being called. So we like ran to the we ran to the terminal. And you know, in Home Alone Lost in New York, where like Kevin's running after his dad in like the terminal, I was Kevin and Aya was like the dad because he was just in front of me and I could see him, but he was slowly getting further and further away because I couldn't like keep up because he's got massive legs. So like yeah, he was like sprinting forward and I'm like, wait for me. And so yeah, we got there and they had just taken off and they're just like, sorry. Like and we're like, what the hell? So we went to Tiger or whatever it was, and we're just like, what happened? But heaps of other people were there too. So obviously it wasn't just us. Like there
Hmm.
were so many people who missed the flight because of their stupid app. So they were just like, oh well, that's your fault. And so they wouldn't give us like a refund or anything, and they couldn't get us on a new flight. So we ended up having to like book a flight for the next day, go stay at Jay and Ben's house where we just like drank our sorrows away and played Mario Party, and then we had to come back the next day. So I think that was kind of like, well, this weekend's a write off. Let's just have fun because that was like pretty messed up.
Yeah.
But it was really funny because like Jay Jay was kind of hating on me because he's like, oh, Erin just like she just gets whatever she wants. Everything works out for her. Um, like some reason he thinks that. And so I was like, what are you talking about, Jay? I'm like, that's not, he's like, nah, you just get whatever you want. It's fine. And then we were waiting for the plane and everyone was sitting down. And I went up to the flight attendant. I was like, oh, can I just check my bags? Like, just to make sure that they're the right weight. And they're like, yeah, yep, they're the right weight. Just walk on through. And I was like, sorry. And they're like, yep, you can get on the plane. And I look around and no one else is standing up. Like, they haven't even announced. And so they're like, yeah, get on the plane. So I'm just like, okay. And so I start walking and I look over at Jay and Ben and I and stuff. And they're just like, what? Like the look on Jay's face. He was, what is happening? And I just went on the plane. I was the first on the plane. I'm just like on there by myself.
They've just
And
like,
then like, yeah. And I was like, this is exactly why Jay like hates me. It's random stuff like that kind of just sometimes happens.
nothing wrong
And
with a
like,
bit of good luck.
yeah, Jay just like got on the plane. He's like, of course. He's like, of course you just get to walk on. Like, of course you don't even have to wait in line. You just get to be first on the plane. That's fine. And so, yeah, it was really cool house. And Phantom, like, awesome venue. It was so cool. And
Yeah.
like when we got there on Friday, we did the like, we went to the uni and had like the, I don't know, Friday meetup thing. And we got out and we ended up just going to have a drink with like a whole bunch of people. And we are kind of like, yeah, keep this party going. And so we were trying to find somewhere else to go. And we walked down this really weird laneway and there was these escalators and there was these ladies and they're like, oh, come up to the bar, come up to like the rooftop bar. And we're like, oh yeah, okay. And they're like $20 entry. And we're like, no, we're not paying $20. And so I think we were all kind of like, nah, let's go. And they must have freaked out and been like, oh no, let's just let them in because, you know, they'll buy drinks and stuff. So they let us in for free. So we're like going up there. So we had no idea where we were or what we were doing or what we were walking into. We just got in the escalator. We're going up. This like random guy gets in and he's like, oh, are you the staff? And we're like, what? Because we were all in our like
Normally clothes.
gamer clothes. And so we like get up to this bar, the door opens, we walk out, and it's this like pool. It's this massive rooftop pool bar. Everyone's in their bikinis and like swimming, and it was insane. We were like, how were we allowed up here? How are we here right now? And
I'm
they had like
so
this
sad I
dance
missed this.
floor. It was so weird. So it was just we couldn't believe it because it looked like a millionaire's kind of bar, and we're just like these gamer people like in our. I think I was wearing a Sailor Moon like shirt, and we're just like hanging around like drinking and stuff. And they had this tiny little dance floor, and they had these massive big taps coming out from the pool or something onto the dance floor. So I guess if it's really hot, you can dance under the like water.
Okay.
It's just like this is great. So we stayed there for a really long time, and then I guess they were closing or something, so we left. And we got back to the house, had a sleep, like not much of one, but Jay and Ben was so on it. They had brought Barocca, they had bought vitamins, they had like aspirin, everything. So they'd set it up on the table and it was like we were like a conveyor belt, and they're like, put out your hand and here's a, you know, Barocca, take the aspirin, take the vitamins. And I've never been like so well after a hangover before. Like I don't know like how they did it, but they have cracked the code. It was so good.
That's yeah, that's like that's definitely been trial and error, and they've like cracked the code literally.
Yes, 100%. But it was, yeah. And then we went to the venue. We all bombed out. So we just I think it was, yeah, it was just a bit of a write off. And then Jay and Ben went out and partied that night as well. And I was, how do you do it? Like
Yeah,
3 nights in a row. So then we woke up, went back to the venue, watched like the finals and stuff. I watched your games, which were awesome. I remember like Saber was playing and she got like so far. She was just
yeah, she killed it. Like,
and
it was nuts.
yeah, and I remember the game that she played with Extra, and it was like last hit scenario. They were both on like I don't know 100+%, and it was just whoever got the next hit won, and she got it, and everyone just like went off. Everyone went crazy. It was so cool. So yeah, that was really fun. That was the first time, like I think, seeing international people as well, like from yeah. I don't know if there was international people at the other ones, but this was kind of a more I guess everyone was like, there's international people coming, it's going to be awesome. So it was kind of more hyped for that
Yeah.
as well. Um, so yeah, I don't really remember a lot of the a lot of the actual playing Smash and stuff. I just remember like partying. And so after that there was like the I don't know, end party, and I remember walking in just as P9 was getting kicked out. He was
That's right.
like sculling beer or whatever, and the security guard's like, "Get out of here!" So yeah, he left, and then we were just kind of hanging around. And Jay had made this really weird thing at the start of the whole like trip. He's like, "I'm gonna get more drinks than you, Aaron." He's like, "I'm gonna make it my like I don't know, like it's game on. Whoever gets the most drinks like wins at the end of the thing." And I was like, I don't want to scab drinks off people. And Jay's like, nah. He's like, whoever gets the most drinks. Because I think one time when we were at GG Easy, this random person came to our table and he's like, hey, who wants drinks? And I was like, yeah, I want drinks. So I got like drinks. And Jay's like hated me ever since because of it. And he's like, Aaron got free drinks. And I'm like, he didn't ask me though. He asked the table, and I just happened to say yes. So anyway, Jay had this like vendetta against me, and he's like, "I'm getting more drinks than you." And so, we were at the after party, and I was kind of like, oh, I wonder how I can like hustle some drinks. And I saw there was the ping pong table, and I was like, yeah, I can play ping pong. Like, I'm pretty good at ping pong. I reckon I can like hustle some like people out of some drinks. And then Andre came up to me and he's like, I know what you and Jay are doing. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, I know what you guys are doing and I'm in. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I'm going to beat both of you. I'm getting the most drinks. I was just, what's happening? And he's like, let's team up. He's like, how about you buy me a drink and then I'll buy you a drink later. And I was like, nah, this is a scam. I'm not buying you anything. I was like, I'm not going to buy you a drink. What are you talking about? And I was like, all right, we can team up. And I'm like, I'll make you a deal. I said, try and find us someone who you think will buy us drinks. And if they buy us a drink, I'll buy you a drink. And I'm like, who have you got? And he kind of looked around. He's like, I know, Tricks. Tricks will buy us drinks. And so we went up to him, and Andre has no tact. He was just like, hey, Tricks, can you buy us drinks? And he's just like, no. I need drinks. What are you? And I was just like, oh my God, Andre, no, what are you doing? And he was standing next to the table tennis. And I was like, oh, hey, how about we play doubles? And whoever wins, like, has to buy the other people drinks. So I teamed with Andre, and I'm pretty sure Shrix teamed with Dran. And yeah, I'm pretty sure it was him, and we were against them. And I was like, oh, we're going to win this easy. No problem. Easiest drinks of my life. And so we started, and Andre was so bad. He couldn't hit anything. And we were losing. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to buy drinks. And I was like, this is not happening. And I spot Jay from like the other side of the room. And I was like, hang on. I'm like, time out, time out. And I run to Jay and I'm like, Jay, I'm like, I need your help. I was like, Andre is so bad. I'm like, you need to like, we need to tag him out. And I'm like, do you play table tennis? Can you play? And he's like, oh, I can play. And I was like, yeah. I'm like, we're teaming. Whoever wins gets drinks. And Jay's like, I'm in. 100% I'm in. So we go. And Andre's like, oh, but what about me? What about? And we're like, oh, you'll still get a drink. Don't worry, you'll still get a drink. And we just like push him to the side, and then we play table tennis and end up winning. And then we're like, yes, yeah, and like celebrating. And we're like, yeah, you guys owe us a drink. And Andre's like kind of tagging along, and we're like, not you. We're like winners only. We're like, you didn't
Holy
play, so
shit.
we totally like we just completely just yeah, it was like the biggest upset of Phantom. Like just yeah, trolling Andre. And so we ended up getting those drinks, and then Jay and I were just like, oh yeah, we'll call a truce, call a truce. And so then after that I was like, yep, table tennis is where it's at. And I saw Al playing table tennis, and he was like holding the bat like a pro. And I was like, all right, I need to like make some bets. And so I think I said to Kami, I was like, oh, Al's so good at table tennis, you'd never be able to beat him. And Kami's like, I can beat him. I was like, all right. And I can't remember if I said to Kami, like, I know I got a drink out of Kami somehow. And it might have been because I was like, oh, if you beat him, I'll buy you a drink. But if you win, um, so I think it was that. But while they were playing, I was standing there and I was like, hey, you want to bet on them? And I was like, I bet like Al will win. And if Al wins, you have to buy me a drink. And and I'm like, if Kami wins, I'll buy you one. And I was like, I'm not doing that. He's just like, no way. That's not happening. Absolutely not. I was like, oh, up to you. I'm like, last chance. He's like, no, not a thing. And then Kami won the first point. And I was like, oh, hang on. And he hesitated. And I was like, come on, last chance. I'm like, last chance, last chance. And he's like, oh, fine, whatever. And then Al went on to just like completely crush Kami.
Oh god.
So
This is like a whole other
drink.
side I didn't even get to see.
But yeah, I mean, I would say I'm a pretty good businesswoman. So
Jesus. I knew this was happening, by the way. Like, I definitely remember this being a thing. I didn't know to what extent it got to, and now you've just explained it. I'm like, holy crap, it was like a lot more
it was
elaborate.
So good, yeah. And then I think after that we went to the casino, and I remember going up. Jay was sitting with like a whole bunch of people, and I remember going up to them and being like, "Oh my god, Jay and I like did a massive hustle against Shrix." And Shrix was standing right there, and he's like, "What?" He had, like, and I was like, "Oh my god, I didn't even see you." So, and then Kami was like, "Oh, we're gonna go bet on the roulette." And I was like, oh, yeah, I'll come with you. So we're standing at the roulette, and Kami's like, oh, pick a number. And I'm like, oh, 24. 24 is the best number. He puts his money on 24 and gets 24. He wins like
What?
all this money.
It's like 32-1 odds or something. Like, he got paid out big time.
Crazy. And so if you're listening, Kami, what did you actually spend the money on? I want to know. And I was just like, I was kind of out of it at that point, and everyone's like, oh my, yeah. And I was like, what's happening? And then I saw it was on 24, and I was like, oh shit. So yeah, that was awesome. And then I think at the very end of the night, like everyone was pretty much done, but we really wanted McDonald's, so nothing was open. Like it was a Sunday night, but we had to travel in an Uber to like this really random McDonald's, which was like under the subway, but then the subway wasn't even running. So I was like, why is this McDonald's open? But it was, and there was just rats everywhere, and it was just like, it was really weird, but it was a really good end to the night.
Holy
just
crap.
like eating Subway McDonald's like in the like closed subway station. It was great.
Yeah, look, if I didn't have the 8 o'clock flight the next day, I would have went out. But I wasn't feeling the best anyway. Towards the end of it, I think there's just like a lot going on. Like, there was like a lot of processing happening at that time. Like, because the event finished in the sense, and I was just like, I gotta go home. I gotta like go back to reality, and there was a lot of weird shit happening. So it's like, yeah, in a sense, it was good I didn't go, because I probably wouldn't have had a good time just with all the other stuff happening, like through my head, like all these thoughts. But it's good that people had a good time, so I'm happy. And for people that didn't go, you got like the other side of the event. It's not just all tournaments. We do have a good time outside of the event itself. That's most of the fun. That's the part I look forward to.
Yeah, well, that was the first time staying with actual Smash Brothers people, so it was totally different to my other times. Like the other times were a lot more chill and relaxed and more like a holiday, but this was literally like a party.
So you need to step up your game, people. If you're going to go to a major interstate, you need to get ready, because it's quite intense.
Well, it depends who you stay with, because I mean, I know Dan was like, I'm never staying with them again.
Sorry, 1 second there, and you cut out.
Sorry, yeah. I was just saying that Dan never wanted to stay with us again. So, I mean, it depends who you stay with. If you stay with people who want to party, then you can party and have a good time that way. But if you want to actually play Smash Brothers, I would recommend staying with other people who want to play Smash Brothers.
Yeah, I think that's like we like, it was pretty much perfect. I feel like the Big Cheese group I stayed with, like having Aya, Dan, Nate, and myself, like, because we were all like, we wanted to do well at the event, but at the same time we're all really chill, if that made sense. Like, I don't know, it just felt really good. Like, we'd just stay up and like we'd watch like back games that we're playing on stream and stuff, and we'd just talk about stuff. Like, it was super duper chill. And we'd go out and we still had drinks and stuff. It was just like more like old people style, if that makes sense. Like, we go out for drinks in the evening, as in like 7, 8 o'clock. We'd have some dinner and stuff, and there'd be a few drinks and stuff, and then we might have something to eat again later because we're hungry, and then we just like go
Mm,
home at like 10, 11 o'clock, talk shit for like 4 hours or whatever, and then go to sleep.
yeah.
Rather than being like out and about and actually like partying.
Like, I think it might have been different if we'd caught that flight.
Maybe.
So I think, yeah, maybe we didn't catch that flight. We're all just like screw this weekend, like whatever. But yeah, who knows? Who knows what would have happened if we caught the flight? But
Mhm.
I'm glad we missed it because it was a really good time.
Yeah, it worked out well in the end. All right, I guess we'll get to the last topic that we've got on the show. We'll probably keep it a bit brief, looking at the time. I
Yeah, I
just
know.
want
I'm sorry.
no, that's
It's like
okay because that was like legit. Like I literally didn't know any of that happened, so I was like, I'm taking this all in. I'm taking this on. Um, so the last topic I want to talk about is like being a woman in gaming and Smash and the community itself. And as you're clearly aware, there's not many women in the Smash scene. And I feel like part of that's just due to like the general stigma towards like gaming as a whole. Like first of all, just gaming, like people playing games is like considered like a bad hobby, and it's like I felt like me having sis like I have two sisters. As they grew up, I felt like there was that thing that they weren't like allowed to play it anymore. If that makes sense, like it's just something I always felt was there. It's like they had this pressure that they had to be like it wasn't a girly hobby. You couldn't play games. You had to do whatever girls do. I don't know. Um,
girls do. I don't know.
no, because I never viewed it that way, right? So it was really strange to me that was a concept because I could see it's like it's like, oh, do you want to play this game? It's like, oh, nah, you know what I mean? Like even though they didn't, I know they definitely did enjoy it, but it's like it was like just a thing that they couldn't do it. So I don't know if that's like, did you have a similar perspective to me? Like that was my experience, and it was really depressing because it was like, well, now I've got to play games by myself. Um, but did you
Look,
feel like that was something that was a thing?
it was because I guess us growing up, like, it wasn't, girls didn't really play as much as boys did. Like now there's so many women in the gaming, but back when we were younger, they're just like, there was younger, but then kind of, yeah, they kind of grew out of it in a sense. And like I was really lucky because I had like, he was a lot older than me, but a brother who's a lot older, and his dad gave him all the like Nintendo, so he would bring them over to our house. And I was really lucky that way because I got to play them because of him. Because
Hmm.
he'd bring them over and he'd leave them um, at our house, and then he'd go back to his dad's to go to school and whatever. So I got them through the week, and that was awesome because if it wasn't for him, like, I don't know when I would have discovered gaming.
Hmm.
And I was like really into it, like from the start. I played it more than he did, and my parents were kind of like, well, girls aren't really supposed to play games, aren't you into makeup and clothes and stuff? And it was fine when I was a kid. They let me play the games. But as I kind of got into a teenager, they're like, we think, we were hoping it was kind of a phase. Like, why are you still into this? And stuff like that. And so it was really difficult because my parents were like, we're not buying you any consoles. Like, after my brother gave me the 64, they're just like, that's it, that's like all you get because you're coming into a teenager, and you're not supposed to do that. And so I was like really upset because I was like, but this is like my passion kind of thing, like this is my hobby, this is what I get joy out of. And so I remember saving up all my money and buying a GameCube myself because my parents were just like, no. And then it probably wasn't until like the Wii, where my mum was just like, okay, you're never going to grow out of this, are you? And I'm like, no, I'm not. And so she's like, all right. She got me a Wii for Christmas, like when it was first released. And I was just so happy because they were finally like, all right. And so ever since then, they've been like super supportive. And I guess like, if you don't, I guess for like girls, yeah, a lot of them grew up with brothers, and they had the console, but then as soon as maybe like they left home or whatever, it just was kind of a thing they did when they were a kid. And if the passion's not there to still play, then they're just not going to. Like, they
Hmm.
might still enjoy it, but it just like, yeah, I think there was that stigma around like girls shouldn't play video games. So I'm sure like a lot of them probably just kind of dropped it because of that. And I was just super stubborn. So I was like, no way. Mario is my family. Like Luigi is my brother. So I was like, no way am I getting rid of like my family. So I was just like super stubborn. I'm like, nope, I'm going to keep playing. But I'm sure that, yeah, there are a lot of girls who are out there who maybe felt the pressure from their families and stuff like that. Um, and like I guess it is hard, like once you move out and stuff like that, you do have other things come up, like you go to uni and you don't have as much time and stuff like that, and so it's kind of just something you grow out of. But because I was like a super awkward person, I didn't grow out of it because I was like, well, I can't talk to people. Like I don't have any friends. Like, so I was like, I'm just gonna keep playing games. So yeah, I think that's why I kept it up and I kind of like pushed and was able to like get through that awkward period where people were like, "No, you're not allowed to play games." I was just like, "Well, I can't do anything else. I'm playing."
No, it's interesting perspective, I guess. Like I've never, it's weird for me because it's always been like my sisters grew up playing games, but like you said, it's like they get older, they find other hobbies and bits and pieces, and it sort of just like disappears. Um, and now I guess the other thing was like for me personally, it was like my they're both older than me, but the one that's in between, me and my older sister, she was super competitive, so
Mhm.
she only wanted to play games that she could beat me at.
Oh.
So that's fine when I was a little kid because I didn't care, right?
Yeah.
Like I didn't really think much about it, you know. And it's like I'd slowly like, hey, I want to start winning, and I'd like try and figure out how to beat her. Like we'd play like I don't know if you know Pokemon Puzzle League. It's just like it's like a match-free sort of puzzle game, and it's like action sort of style thing. And they just like destroy me, and I'd like slowly get better at it until the point where like I'd beat her a couple times. So it was like enough to keep her playing because she wanted to beat me again. But then eventually it's like I just kept beating her, and she'd never win. And then she just like sort of stopped playing with me, and I was like,
Oh.
this kind of sucks because like I only got
Yeah.
better so I could like play at your level, and then now you're just like don't want to play with me anymore. Um, so that was a bit disappointing, but it happens. What can I say? Uh, Along this topic, still with like being a woman in gaming, for the scene itself, you know, do you feel like there's things that we can do more as a scene to make it more accessible, or do you think it's fine? Like, I just want to get your perspective. You know, like with the paradigm sort of shift that's happening over time with society. Like, I feel like it's generally more accepted than it was before. Um, like, do you feel like there's more we need to do, or is it just things that we need to do to make it more accessible? Like, I can't really come up with anything off the top of my head. Yeah, and it's a very tough question. So if you're not really sure to answer, I'm not worried. But yeah,
Um,
just wanted to get your thoughts on it.
yeah, I would say like it's hard because I feel like the Smash team they have done, like they've had the women's only tournament and they have the amateurs, that big amateurs one they had. I can't remember what it was called, and it was for like you weren't allowed to be on the PR, and so it was like
Oh, like the Arcadians, right?
yeah, the arcade. Yeah, so I feel like stuff like that's really good. Having Smash at Swanston is like great because it's a really chill place for if any women are wanting to come and check it out. It's good because it's free. So and there's a lot of like it's at the uni, so they can go with their friends and stuff like that. So I do feel like it is accessible, like our tournaments and stuff. It's just I find that like whenever I see a woman at Smash, like it's like someone new who's come in. They've usually come with a group of friends, but then the whole group will do badly. Like usually, because I mean you're new, so you're
Yeah.
not always going to do great. So the friend group won't do that great, and then the friend group now that never comes back. And I just don't think like the women really like want to come by themselves, so they probably just stay in their group with their friends and just play at home or whatever. Like
Hmm.
she might be really interested in coming and playing competitively, but women like to do things in groups, and so I think unless you kind of have someone that at the tournament, it's really difficult to go by yourself. Like I was really driven to go because I love the game so much and I didn't have anyone to play with. So I was kind of like forced to go in a way. But nowadays with like online play and like big groups and stuff like that, you can play from your house. You don't have to go anywhere to be able to
Hmm.
play with people. And so yeah, I just think that it is kind of like a hard question because obviously with the whole stuff that's come out this year and like in Smash and like all the awful stuff that's kind of been shown,
Mm,
I think that will definitely help move the scene forward, because you know we're all aware of what's happening and we can kind of look out for each other a little bit more. So hopefully that kind of like opens it up to be a safer place for women. But I also do believe like it depends on like where the tournament is and what time it's at, because I mean this isn't a Smash Brothers thing, but women don't like to be out by themselves like late at night. So if the Smash tournament's going really late, like it's just an uncomfortable thing. Like
yeah.
when I went to EBS, I'd always leave pretty early. I never liked to go in winter because it got dark at like 5. And so I liked going more in summer, but I'd leave like as the sun was kind of setting. So I didn't get home too late. And that was just like, that wasn't a Smash Brothers thing at all. That was a, you know, a world thing.
Yeah, and that's
Like
like
that's
really
just,
awful to think. Like I've never really like just as a male, like I've never had to think twice about it. You know, like
mm,
I leave EBS at like 9:30, 10 o'clock. You know, basically when I'm out and I'm just like, okay, the train's gonna come in 20 minutes. I better go. And like that's not a thing that ever comes across my mind. And it's like it's sad that like you're not doing it for the wrong reasons. You're looking after yourself, but it's sad that you can't be comfortable to stay that bit longer, or you know, if you wanted
yeah.
to, just because of these outside factors, and you know, you're just being weary of the scenarios that do happen. But it's just like it's such a shame.
Mm.
You just can't
And
be
like, I
comfortable.
think SAS is really good because, you know, it's a Friday night, everyone's around. So you feel pretty safe. But like Zen, that's on a Tuesday night, like in
Hmm.
kind of a weird part of Melbourne. It's like under a bridge and kind of creepy. So uh, I think that might play a part of it. I don't know because I do still go to tournaments, but like yeah, I'm wary about when I leave and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
that could play a part in why a lot of women don't come. And I also think it's just kind of depends on the woman as well. Like they had that women's only tournament at BAM, and I met so many girls who I'd never seen before. And I was talking to like one of them, and she had just moved from another state, and she was like, yeah, I'm super interested. You know, my boyfriend's not really into Smash Brothers, but I'm really into it and I would like to come to tournaments. I'm like, yeah, that'd be awesome. You know, come, we can hang out, blah, blah, blah. Never saw her again.
Hmm.
There was like another one who was really good. And I was like, oh, you should enter like the tournaments. And she's like, oh, no way. She's like, nah, no, I just play like kind of with my friends and whatever. So it's kind of like we can like kind of have those things and make it as accessible as we can. But at the end of the day, it's kind of just also depends on if the woman, you know, loves the game enough to warrant taking hours and hours out of like their days and weeks and stuff to kind of
Hmm.
come out and play when they can just do it at home.
Yeah, and I mean those are all very valid points, and I'm glad you sort of brought it up because it gives you like a lot more perspective as well. That
Mm.
angle does make you think. You know, it's like okay, like I've like the timing of tournament thing has never been come across my mind like ever, and now it's just like wait, that's a very good point. Like you don't really want to be hanging around late, especially if it's in a place it's hard to get you know, it's hard to get that perspective. So that was really interesting, Aaron. I appreciate like yeah, I just want to spend a little bit of time on that because I think it's a really important topic and it's especially in such a male dominated scene, I think it's important to get that perspective as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think like possibly something that could like I don't know if this would help at all, but like maybe having a woman TO in every state, just like someone who then like women can come and ask for help, or someone like they might feel a bit more comfortable talking to.
Hmm.
I do remember like my first tournament, I couldn't find the bathrooms. And I felt like super awkward asking any of like the male TOs or anything. So I just like I don't know why. I was just like young and awkward. So I just kept walking around like looking for like someone I could ask. But then I got like super desperate and I'm like, well, I can either like feel a bit awkward asking someone or I can choose one of those options.
Yeah.
And so like could be yeah, if we're gonna have like younger women joining and stuff, like they might feel comfortable with women TOs, but I don't know, it's just something that could be tried and see what happens out of
Hmm.
it.
Even that, or alternatively, even just like having female like community like figures, in a sense, like
Yeah.
people that that are involved, but not necessarily as a TO. They don't have to organize the event, but people that are attending, that you can contact. Like I know, um, like it's not going to be necessarily feasible everywhere, but it's definitely something to think about. Yeah, that's actually a really good point, and I hope at the very least it's something that's taken into consideration, because that might help a lot of people, especially new women joining the scene. You know, help them transition into actually being fully involved, fully invested, rather than trying it once and sort of dropping it again.
I think like having Kez there is awesome as well. So, because yeah, I remember, yeah, I was kind of like still quite new when I had come back into the scene, and she was always like so friendly and nice to me, and I was just like, ah, yes, I was like, yes, like I don't know, she just made me feel super comfortable. So, I think that definitely helped.
Oh, I mean, even for myself, I think for me it was more just like having a supportive parent and be at something that it's like I've always wanted, like not in the sense like my parents always been supportive of my hobbies, like they've never given me a hard time, like they know I like playing games, you know. I just balanced it with a lot of other stuff that I used to do, so it was never like they were never overly concerned like it was like an addiction or anything. Like I was still training, I was still exercising. It was just like I just
Mm.
also loved playing games on a Saturday morning instead of like going and playing soccer. Like I just had other alternative ways to do those hobbies. So like seeing Kez and I think for me it was really when her and Bradley went overseas, and Kez was streaming all the games like through Twitter, and I was literally
Yeah.
watching every game as they were coming up. Like I had notifications go off because like I want to see Bradley play, and just like
Mhm.
imagine having all these people just like supporting your son, like you know what I mean, and having a supporting parent is just so important, and I think that's great that we
Yeah,
have that. We're
definitely.
so lucky.
Mm. Yeah, 100%.
Okay, given timing, I'll do a very quick. If anyone's got any viewer questions, post them in the chat. Only got time for probably two or three of them. Um, so post away, um, and then we'll wrap it up because it's been quite a long one. It's been
Yeah, I know
fantastic.
it has. I'm so sorry.
No, I love it. Like I always said this to myself: if it went over, I do not care if it's just flowing, it's flowing. I I set that time frame more so that if people are conscious of the time and they need to, like they need to like leave and stuff, that they can. Um, but if you're having a good time and you don't need to do anything, I'm like I do not care if it goes over, so it's not a problem. Um, all right, so we'll start with Cruzzy. So Cruzzy's got a question. So like, he's asked, where do you keep all your cosplay things?
So I actually have an art room, like a spare room at my house, and it's literally filled to the brim with stuff. There's no wall space anymore. There's like so many like bookcases and storage, and I keep all like it has a wardrobe in there as well, like a built-in closet, thank God. So I keep everything in there, and it's gotten to the point where I've like got so much stuff that I've had to put it in containers and then like store it in the garage. So I'm slowly taking over the garage as well. Like I honestly have a problem.
You're going off, holy moly!
So and everyone's like, oh, you should sell them. But a lot of my early ones, they're not like sellable. It's kind of just like I have them for the memories.
Hmm.
And so, like, yeah, I actually did a huge clean out and I threw out probably like I don't know, tubs and tubs of like random stuff that I'm not going to use anymore, but I still have so much stuff.
There you go. It's been answered. Now, Garlic Twisters asks whether you're a cat or dog person.
I am a dog person. However, I do have cats. It's so weird. I actually like there was some cats born under my house from like a stray mum, and it was like I got them out from under the house, and it was literally the night of the Smash Brothers launch. So I was supposed to go into the city to go get Smash Ultimate, but because I'd rescued these kittens, I couldn't leave. So I ended up calling them and being like, "Can you transfer it to like my local?" EB Games, and I stayed up all night feeding these kittens because at the time, like the mum hadn't come back, and so I was like, I gotta get
Oh.
these kittens out. So I was like stayed up all night feeding the kittens, and then in the morning I like was on no sleep and I like ran to like my EB Games at 9 a.m. picked up Ultimate and then like ran back home but didn't play it until like the next day because I was still like feeding the kittens and
No.
stuff. So I ended up keeping the kittens, and so because I bonded with them, even though like yeah, I'm not a super cat person, but because I kind of raised them, I was like, well, you're my children now. So I love dogs, but I have some really annoying cats at home.
There you go. So that's your answer to that one. Probably just last. We answered the Wild Lucas Pisky, so you're gonna have to watch the podcast back. On my apologies for that. The last question we probably got time for. I'm just conscious of the time. Is from Crosby. He's just asked what your favorite fandom was.
As in Smash fandom, like which
You didn't specify, so it could be whatever you want, I guess.
favorite fandom? I actually don't know what a fandom is. I assume it's like I don't know. Can I say Nintendo? Is that a fandom?
You have to explain this. I apologize because I don't know how to answer your question in that sense. So he's given some examples, which is like who in some guess it's like Doctor Who or X Files, like those.
Okay. Favorite fandom. Like my favorite fandom's Nintendo for sure, but obviously, I love Simpsons as well. But yeah, Nintendo because like Simpsons was always like a small part of my life, but Nintendo was a massive part of my life. So Nintendo is like gonna win every single time for everything.
And were you like the fanfic person that would like make up your own stories and stuff, or was it more?
Yeah, I
Chill?
made up poems and stuff. I like made up I in my movies that I used to make when like I was in high school, I would have cutscenes where I was just dressed as Mario dancing. and it was and that was just like it didn't have anything to do with the movie. It was kind of like almost an intermission. I just put like me dancing in like a Mario costume throughout the movie. And yeah, I had poems and I had stories. I wrote like a Zelda fanfic and stuff. Like yeah, I was pretty full on.
Like I can't pretend that like wasn't a thing I ever did, but like maybe not to the same extent. Like I definitely wrote and drew and like like world maps and stuff. Like I'd draw lots of
Yeah.
those and things like that. Like I think it's like actually super cool when you look back at that sort of stuff. It's quite
Oh
interesting.
yeah. I've kept a lot of it. Like I have games that I made, like little board games based off Zelda and stuff. So I've kind of got all those that I've kept, and I like to look back at them and be like, "Wow, I was like crazy." Like I'm still crazy, but like I was like really into it.
There you go. All right. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up there because, like I said, conscious of your time as well. It's been quite a long one. Erin, thank you very much for taking the time to chat with me today. It was blast.
Yeah, it was really fun.
So yeah, I appreciate you, especially us going a bit over. I didn't want to hold you up too much, but did you have any sort of shout outs you want to make, plugs, call outs, any of that? Now's your chance.
Yeah, if you like a Nintendo and you like Simpsons and you like cosplay, follow my Instagram, which is Hello Sweet Taco. In terms of like call outs, like I really want you to get Ben and Jay on. I feel like getting them together would just be like chaos. So that would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's something
So
we'll look into. That one's a tricky one, time what, but it would actually be quite entertaining. Um, we will look into it. That's all I can do at the moment because I haven't asked, so I can't say I've done it yet. But yeah, I will work with that. Once again, I guess we'll speak about next week or the next episode rather, because I can't. Unfortunately, with the hand situation, I can't guarantee an episode every week like I was before. But the next episode's guest will be Crosby. So Crosby will be on the show next for sure. So I hope he's excited because he probably doesn't know until now anyway. And yeah, if you're tuned in, thank you very much for listening. I appreciate you all tuning in. It's been a lot of fun. Thanks once again, Erin, for joining me, and I hope you all have a good time. Thank you very much.